I married Xun'er, but she refuses to consummate the marriage. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1 Xun'er, let's get divorced. Xun'er, let's get a divorce. On the balcony of the bamboo building, Gu Fei turned around and looked at Xun'er, who had just returned to the room with a bright smile on her face, and said lightly, "What did you say?" In the room, Xun'er was obviously stunned for a moment after hearing Gu Fei's words. Then, she looked at Gu Fei in disbelief, thinking that she had heard it wrong. "I said, let's get a divorce." Gu Fei looked at Xun'er calmly, and his voice was still as firm as before. He was originally from Blue Star, and after a car accident, he accidentally traveled to the Qi continent. Moreover, he became the grandson of the 8-starred Shang strongman of the ancient clan, the Black Annihilation King Gu Lai. In terms of age, Gu Fei is only 1 year older than Xun'er, and the two of them are childhood sweethearts. However, a few years later, the clan leader Gu Yuan suddenly decided to let Xun'er lurk in Yuan city, to wait for an opportunity to find the Chuash ancient emperor Jade of the Zhao clan. At that time, although Gu Fei wanted to stop it, he was just a child of a few years old at that time, and his weight in the ancient clan was not enough. There was no way to change the decision made by the head of the clan, Gu Yuan. He could only watch Xun'er being sent out of the ancient world by Gu Yuan. After that, Gu Fei secretly vowed to find a way to bring Xun'er back. In the past 10 years, Gu Fei's cultivation has advanced by leaps and bounds, and he has become the most dazzling genius in the ancient clan. Even Gu Qinyang, who was once designated as the young clan leader, is much inferior to him. His prestige in the ancient clan even surpasses many of the older generation of elders in the ancient clan. Then, Gu Fei applied to the elders' council of the ancient clan to bring the daughter of the clan leader back to the ancient clan. Moreover, he also expressed his intention to marry Xun'er. With his current status and unparalleled talent for cultivation, even Gu Yuan was very optimistic. Gu Yuan immediately agreed to the marriage between him and Xun'er. After Xun'er was brought back to the ancient world, the clan leader Gu Yuan personally arranged the marriage between Gu Fei and Xun'er. However, although the two have been married, Xun'er has never been willing to consummate the marriage with Gu Fei for half a year, and even refused to let him touch her. Her attitude towards Gu Fei is even colder than that towards a stranger. For more than half a year, Gu Fei has tried his best to be good to Xun'er. However, it seems that all this is just wishful thinking, and Xun'er does not appreciate it at all. The reason why Xun'er smiled so happily today is because Ling Ying brought back news about Xiao Yan from outside the ancient world. Before this, she asked Ling Ying to send the core fighting skills scroll of the ancient clan to Xiao Yan. Not only that, she was even willing to give away the sub-fire of the Golden Emperor Burning Sky Flame. Moreover, this time she also asked Ling Ying to bring news and asked Xiao Yan to meet in Yuan city in 3 months. As Xun'er's husband, Gu Fei has never received a gift from Xun'er. Now, Xun'er is planning to meet with other men in private. How can Gu Fei bear it? You, Gu Fei, don't make trouble. We have only been married for half a year. Xun'er had a bad premonition in her heart. Her pretty face tightened and she said seriously, Gu Fei did not answer, but looked at Xun'er calmly, without any emotion in his eyes. Seeing Gu Fei's reaction, Xun'er realized that Gu Fei was not joking. "No, I don't agree." Xun'er's face changed and she shook her head. "After we got married, we got along very well, and we never quarreled. How have I ever let you down? Why do you want to divorce me?" "I firmly disagree with divorce." Xun'er pursed her lips and stared at Gu Fei. As the daughter of the clan leader, she is extremely talented and shining all over. If she divorces Gu Fei, it may attract many malicious speculations from others, and in this case, her reputation will be ruined. She will never allow such a thing to happen. Ding! Xun'er has angry emotions, and the emotional value increases by 100. At this moment, the familiar system prompt sound rang in Gu Fei's mind. At the beginning, after Xun'er left the ancient clan, Gu Fei was very decadent. It was at that time that he bound the emotional upgrade system, by collecting the emotional values of people with different luck. You can upgrade your own abilities. It is precisely because of this clear upgrade system that Gu Fei has been able to grow so quickly in the past 10 years. Get along well? Haha. Looking at the extremely serious expression on Xun'er's face, Gu Fei couldn't help but sneer. What qualifications do you have to disagree with the divorce? In the past, Xun'er was cold but gentle, but now, Gu Fei only saw indifference. Even after the two got married, there was no change. Just like strangers, why don't I have the qualifications? Why do you say divorce? Xun'er was angry at the sneer on Gu Fei's face and roared hysterically. Haha, you are about to cheat on me, and you still ask me why? Gu Fei sneered again. He had liked this woman for many years. Now, he has finally made up his mind to sever his relationship with her. Cheating on me? Hearing the words used by Gu Fei, Xun'er couldn't help but tremble. Ding. Xun'er becomes extremely angry, and her emotion value increases by 200. You are talking nonsense. When did I have an affair? You are insulting me. Xun'er's delicate body trembled slightly, and she pointed at Gu Fei and retorted loudly. I am talking nonsense? Gu Fei's eyes suddenly showed a trace of disgust. He didn't expect that this woman would not admit it at this time. He shouted, who did you meet just now? Do you think no one knows? Master Ling is my elder. When I was in the ancient world, Master Ling took care of me. I keep in touch with Master Ling. Is this wrong? Hearing Gu Fei's words, Xun'er was very unconvinced and asked back with confidence. It's right to contact Ling Ying, but you contacted Ling Ying, but you care about someone else. You care more about that old lover than me as your husband, Gu Fei said sarcastically. Xun'er's eyes dodged for a moment. Ding. Xun'er is panicked plus angry. Emotion value increases by 100. Nonsense. What old lover? I've been in the Xiao family for so many years, and I just treat him as a brother and a relative. I care about my relatives a little bit. Is that wrong? Seeing Xun'er continue to quibble, Gu Fei's eyes were even more sarcastic. Haha. Relatives without any blood relationship? Is it worth you hiding the clan's secret fighting skills, or even sending the sub-fire of the Golden Emperor burning heaven flame? Gu Fei sneered. Is it worth you to pay attention to everything that happens to him every moment, and even agree on the next time you meet? Are you already imagining how to hug your brother tightly when you meet next time? When speaking, Gu Fei's eyes were full of disgust and disgust. For a woman whose heart does not belong to him, no matter how beautiful she is, Gu Fei does not intend to miss her too much. Chapter 2. Not consummating the marriage means you are not ready. Looking at Gu Fei's eyes and that disdainful tone, Xun'er's heart trembled violently. During this period of time, Gu Fei had always been very flattering and caring about her. He never spoke to her as loudly as he did now. But now, he has completely lost his previous obedience, and Xun'er can't accept it. Ding. Xun'er is panicking, and her emotion value increases by 100. But, even so, I have never done anything to let you down. Xun'er lowered her head, not daring to look into Gu Fei's eyes, and her voice was not as righteous as before, but with a bit of weakness. Really? As your husband, I invited you to go out and play several times, but you refused all of them with various reasons such as cultivation, and your so-called brother Xiao Yan. Before he even said a word, you rushed to go on a date with him, and even hid it from everyone. Isn't this a guilty conscience? Gu Fei's mouth was even a little elegant and indifferent. There was no sarcasm, nor disdain. It was just plain, indifferent and plain. Looking at Gu Fei's calm expression, Xun'er panicked. She knew that Gu Fei might not care about her anymore. Moreover, Gu Fei's words made Xun'er feel ashamed. As a wife, she did not fulfill her duty as a wife. As a married woman, keeping a distance from other men is also a default rule. Ding. Xun'er feels guilty and panic. Emotional value increases by 200. Gu Fei, it's not what you think. You just never cared about me as a husband. Even if I treat you well, it's still not as good as your old lover. No, I don't care about you. At this point, even Xun'er couldn't say anything. There are some facts that she herself has to admit. As long as Gu Fei is not blind, he can see her various behaviors. It's just that our marriage is not important to you at all. All my kindness to you is just that kind of cheap. How can it be as beautiful as the relationship between you and your old lover? Gu Fei spoke again. The warmth in his voice was gone, and he sounded like a stranger. This made Xun'er panic. Gu Fei had been very good before and after the marriage for half a year. Moreover, Gu Fei was indeed very outstanding and was a favored child in this world. At this point, Xun'er would never consider divorcing Gu Fei. That would have a huge impact on her. Also, I'm your husband now, and you're so good to other men, giving them fighting skills and fertility, and even going to meet him privately. You're meeting him privately without telling anyone. Are you planning to sleep with him next? We've been married for half a year, and you haven't consummated the marriage with me. Are you planning to keep your chastity for another man? Gu Fei looked at Xun'er, and his eyes became a little disgusted again. No. Xun'er was anxious and screamed in an instant. Looking at Gu Fei's eyes, she almost collapsed. Who could stand being so despised by her husband? Ding. Xun'er has a breakdown, a critical hit, and the emotional value increases by 1000. Gu Fei, it's not what you think. I didn't consummate the marriage just because I'm not ready. Xun'er explained anxiously. Not ready? What does it mean to be ready? Are you planning to leave your virginity to your old lover? Is this what you are ready for? Gu Fei's eyes showed a trace of disgust. Nonsense. I'm not. Xun'er was obviously stimulated by Gu Fei's words and screamed out. Gu Fei, how can you say that to me? In your eyes, am I such a dissolute and dirty woman? Xun'er stared at Gu Fei for a long time, and 2 lines of tears flowed silently. She questioned Gu Fei angrily. Ding. Xun'er has an angry emotion, and the emotional value increases by 100. Xun'er is already beautiful, and at this moment, 2 lines of tears flowed across her cheeks, adding a kind of poignancy. Most men, seeing this scene, will have an impulse to pity them. However, Gu Fei now has no pity at all and is still indifferent. What else? Do you think that you can put all your thoughts on other men and still want me to treat you as pure and innocent? Gu Fei said with disdain. You did something dirty, but you don't let others talk about it. How can there be such a thing in the world? Hearing Gu Fei's words, Xun'er's original anger gradually dissipated, and she felt a little ashamed. She understood that she was indeed wrong in this matter. Ding. Xun'er felt ashamed, and the emotion value increased by 100. Gu Fei did not speak, and sat quietly on the chair. After a while, Xun'er recovered a little and looked at Gu Fei, but she didn't dare to look directly at him. At this time, she gritted her teeth and said, I just wanted to help him, and I didn't do anything to let you down. Ding. Xun'er felt ashamed, and her emotional value increased by 100. That man enjoys treatment that I, as a husband, have never had. Do you think that you are not cheating because you didn't sleep with him? If you want to see him so much, why not bring him to the ancient world to replace me? Gu Fei continued to sarcastically. You, Gu Fei, don't say such dirty things. I just treat him as a relative. Gu Fei's words were extremely explicit. Xun'er was extremely ashamed and showed a hint of anger again. Is what I said dirty? Then you did it yourself. Isn't it even dirtier? Gu Fei asked back. This sentence made Xun'er speechless. What? Are you anxious because I was right? Gu Fei looked at the stunned Xun'er and continued to mock her. Xun'er lowered her head, feeling a little panic and ashamed. Ding. Xun'er feels panic and shame. Emotional value increases by 100. Xun'er, I admit that I liked you very much before. For you, I almost lost myself. I try my best to give you the best. I won't refuse anything you want. It's just that you always think it's a matter of course. I thought that all this was only temporary. As long as I treated you well, you would put your heart on me one day. Now, I finally know that you have another man in your heart. Since your heart is not here, your body is not willing to give. You naturally have no qualifications for me to give for free. Gu Fei's eyes were cold, and his voice was cold and sharp. As these words fell, Xun'er felt even more ashamed and couldn't speak. Ding. Xun'er felt extremely ashamed. Emotional value increased by 300. Chapter 3 Seventh Great Alchemy. What position do you put me, your husband, in? We are already married, but you can't restrain your heart. Gu Fei's voice was low and sinister. Xun'er looked up and looked at Gu Fei with a cold face. She wanted to explain, but she couldn't say anything. Gu Fei was right about many things. She was already married, so she should automatically stay away from other men. However, she was very willful and didn't consider Gu Fei's feelings at all. Or rather, it's not that she didn't consider it, it's that she never cared. Ding. Xun'er panicked and collapsed, and her emotional value increased by 300. Okay, No more words, just divorce. Since you don't want to give me your body, then I will set you free. Gu Fei looked at Xun'er in front of him quietly, and said without any waves, I. Xun'er opened her mouth, and she almost wanted to say I can give you my body at this time. However, when the words came to her lips, they stopped for some reason. Am I so untrustworthy? Looking at Gu Fei's resolute face, Xun'er's face turned pale and she felt uncomfortable. Ding! Xun'er felt sad, painful, and ashamed, and her emotional value increased by 300. What is there about you that is worthy of my trust? Gu Fei asked back. I. Xun'er seemed to have a brain short-circuit at this time, and she didn't say a complete sentence for a long time. Okay, let's part ways in peace and don't embarrass each other. Tonight, I will move out. Gu Fei didn't want to entangle with Xun'er anymore. After leaving this sentence, he turned around and prepared to go downstairs. This residence belongs to Xun'er. Before, Gu followed Xun'er's instructions in everything. Therefore, even if the two got married and Xun'er said she wanted to continue to stay in her own residence, Gu agreed to her without hesitation. Now that the two have quarreled to this extent, Gu naturally has no need to stay here. No, you are my husband, you can't leave me. Xun'er realized the seriousness of the matter, and hurriedly turned her head to Gu and said stubbornly, since you won't let me go, then I ask you, will you consummate your marriage with me tonight? Hearing Xun'er's words, Gu frowned, with unspeakable disgust in his eyes, and finally asked a question. Xun'er was speechless. She had thought about this sentence before, however, she was not ready yet. Okay, tomorrow morning, I will go to the clan leader to explain this matter. This time, Gu left the bamboo building with a firm step, and he did not stop even a step no matter how Xun'er tried to keep him. At this time, it was late, and the night filled the whole land. The cool moonlight poured down from the sky, covering the entire mountain range with a layer of light silver gauze. In the center of the mountain range, groups of palaces stood one after another. Under the moonlight, they were like ancient beasts, permeating a trace of ancient breath. Gu, standing alone on a mountain far away from these ancient temples. At this moment, the surroundings seemed particularly peaceful, just like Gu's heart. From now on, I will no longer put all my energy into pleasing Xun'er. Gu breathed a sigh of relief, feeling a sense of relief in his heart. This mountain was where he lived before he got married. Speaking of which, he hadn't been here for half a year. As he walked slowly towards his residence, Gu began to think about his future plans in his mind. This is the Gu continent. The ultimate lifelong wish of countless people is to become the legendary Dali strongman, and Gu is no exception. 10 years ago, Gu activated the emotion upgrade system, which enabled him to be promoted from an ordinary talented person to the current Gu clan Anjiao. Emotion upgrade system. The function of the system is very simple. Gu can collect emotion values by directly or indirectly stimulating people with luck to produce emotional fluctuations, and the emotion value can be used to upgrade his various abilities. In this world, almost all the people with great luck are people around Xiao Yan in the original novel. As the future Yan Emperor, Xiao Yan's luck is naturally far beyond that of ordinary people. In addition to Xiao Yan, most of the other people with great luck are concentrated in the northwest continent. In the past few years, Gu's attention was almost entirely on Xun'er. In order to bring Xun'er back to the ancient clan, he practiced very hard in the ancient world. In addition, there were also some people with small luck in the ancient clan, so Gu could make rapid progress. However, the emotional value obtained by people with low luck and people with high luck every time they stimulate emotions is too far apart. For example, Gu may only be able to gain 0.1 or 0.5 emotional values by directly or indirectly stimulating an ordinary person, but by stimulating a lucky person like Xun'er, he can get hundreds of emotional values. Therefore, in order to collect more emotional values, Gu needs to gather those lucky people in the Gu continent together. Emotional value. 4000. The next moment, a panel that only Gu could see appeared in front of him. Gu remembered that before he proposed divorce with Xun'er, his emotional value was only a little over 2000, but now, it has reached 4000. I have accumulated emotional value for so long, it is time to upgrade my attributes. Gu's mind flashed, The attribute panel instantly appeared in front of him. Host, Gu Fei, age, 16, cultivation, 7-star Zong, qualification, level 101, 9100 is the qualification of the 10-starred Emperor bloodline, physique, level 78, comparable to the physique of a late-stage 7th-level Emperor grade bloodline monster, soul, early stage of the spiritual realm, Kung Fu, Great Flame Heart Sutra, Heavenly Elementary, Fighting Skills, Flame Devouring Cage, Earthly Advanced, Sun Finger, Earthly Intermediate, Heavenly Star Step, Earthly Advanced Body Movement Fighting Skill, Alchemy, 6th rank. The system panel was very simple, and Gu Fei was very familiar with it. System, upgrade the alchemy technique. Gu Fei gave an order to the system. Ding. The host's current alchemy level is level 6. To upgrade to level 7, 39.99 emotional points are required. Start upgrading now. Buzz. The next moment, a large amount of information instantly flooded into Gu Fei's mind. Some knowledge about alchemy took root in his mind. Alchemy is a profound subject. Even what the system input into his mind is just the tip of the iceberg. Gu Fei carefully browsed the alchemy knowledge in his mind and was completely immersed in it. He certainly knew how difficult it was to become a top alchemist, but as long as he had the system in hand, it was unknown whether he could become an alchemist that would stir up the entire continent in the future. He was completely immersed in the system panel, and since he was on the mountain where he lived at this time, Gu Fei did not pay attention to the outside world. Not far away, a beautiful girl from the ancient clan was standing there, looking at Gu Fei quietly. Chapter 4, Great, Brother Gu Fei is getting a divorce. This woman's name is Gu Yuniu, and her strength is considered excellent in the entire Gu clan. With her beautiful appearance and strong strength, Gu Yuniu also has many suitors. Although she is not as good as Xun'er, since Xun'er left, Gu Yuniu can also be regarded as a little goddess of the younger generation. But she has always been secretly in love with Gu Fei, the first of the younger generation of the Gu clan. She had fallen in love with Gu Fei a long time ago, but she didn't expect that Gu Fei's first request to the clan leader was to marry Xun'er. Gu Yuniu couldn't figure out why she was not as good as Xun'er every night. Xun'er left the Gu clan very early, and Gu Yuniu grew up with Gu Fei. Even if the affection of growing up together is not as good as Xun'er, but even so, after Gu Fei married Xun'er, Gu Yuniu would come here every night to see the things and miss him. Gu Fei is so outstanding. Of course she can't let it go. When she saw Gu Fei again today, it seemed that his strength had increased again, and she had long been unable to see his strength and future. Gu Fei was carefully checking the system panel. Gu Yuniu supported her chin and secretly looked at him. She was a little dazed for a moment. Her face flushed and her breath was unstable. Gu Fei quickly noticed the fluctuations not far away. Gu Fei looked over vigilantly and found that it was his childhood sweetheart Gu Yuniu. Startled by Gu Fei's look, Gu Yuniu was afraid that Gu Fei would find out that she had been peeking at him these days. Gu Yuniu was panicking, and her emotion value increases by 3. In panic, she asked first to hide her embarrassment. Brother Gu Fei, why don't you stay with Xun'er? She was a little uneasy, but she saw that Gu Fei seemed to have completely changed, with a faint look in his eyes. In the past, whenever Gu Fei heard Xun'er's name, he would smile and his eyes would soften. Now, he seemed to have nothing to do with it, as if he heard the name of a stranger. Xun'er, I don't need to accompany her anymore. Don't you need to accompany her? Gu Yuniu's heart unconsciously surged with a strange emotion. She realized something and subconsciously asked, well, no more. Xun'er and I are about to get divorced. Gu Fei looked into Gu Yuniu's eyes, but he saw the emotion of expectation in her eyes. Gu Yuniu has the emotion of expectation. The emotion value increases by 5. The system prompts at the right time. Gu Fei looked at Gu Yuniu's blushing face and understood something in his heart. Could it be that this girl is looking forward to his divorce? Could it be that she likes him? Gu Fei was about to speak, but was interrupted by a female voice that he was very familiar with. I won't divorce him. Gu Fei and Gu Yuniu looked at the source of the voice together. It turned out that at this moment, Xun'er rushed to Gu Fei. Xun'er has the emotion of anger. The emotion value increases by 100. She looked angry and looked at Gu Yuniu with unkind eyes. Gu Yuniu took a step back and looked at Gu Fei helplessly. Seeing her subconscious reaction of asking for help, Xun'er was about to speak. "What are you still doing here?" Guf's eyes were full of disappointment and anger. He scolded, "You have someone else in your heart, and you still want to disgust me." Xun'er bit her lower lip with her pearly teeth after hearing this, and looked at him nervously. Of course, she couldn't deny that she did something wrong, but Guf shouldn't be here with Gu Yunyu. "Then what are you and Gu Yunyu doing here? If I don't come, you will prepare to marry her, right?" Xun'er's beautiful eyes flashed with anger, and she was aroused by her own imagination. Even if she cared about brother Xiao Yan very much, she would not allow Guf to care about Gu Yunyu. Xun'er has angry emotions, and the emotional value increases by 100. Xun'er stared at Guf and simply said everything in her heart. "Don't tell me, you want to divorce me just for her, right?" Guf looked at her disappointedly and sighed unconsciously. Xun'er is still so beautiful and full of elegance, but she is different from the little girl before. "Xun'er, why do you think so? I grew up with this girl, and it's normal for a brother to care about her. Don't you know the reason why I want a divorce best?" Xun'er's eyes were red, but she still looked at Guf stubbornly. Girls are careful, and of course she had already seen that Gu Yunyu liked Guf. It would have been fine if Guf had always kept his distance from other women before, but Guf is her husband now, and even if she doesn't like Guf, she won't allow Gu Yunyu to think about him. "Do you really want to divorce me? Otherwise, with that green hat on, I'll watch you give all the things I gave him?" Xun'er's eyes were a little evasive, but she didn't want to lose in front of Gu Yunyu. Xun'er feels ashamed, and her emotional value increases by 80. Gu Yunyu stood not far behind Guf, listening to their conversation in silence. She was also curious why Guf suddenly wanted to divorce. Listening to Guf's heavy words, Gu Yunyu realized some reasons. Could it be that Xun'er has another man in her heart? Guf didn't want to say anything more. He frowned and looked at the endless night. "You too, it's late. Please go back first. I want to rest." Xun'er's eyes flashed with disbelief. He actually wanted to drive her away, but Guf was determined, so she had to go down the mountain with Gu Yunyu. Guf returned to the room and didn't think about it anymore. After checking his system panel, he practiced all night. The next morning, Guf went directly to a hall deep in the ancient clan. He didn't sleep all night, and he had thought clearly about Xun'er. Since half a year of companionship couldn't win back Xun'er's heart, then he might as well let go. So Guf waited for Gu Yuan to arrive in the hall. He planned to meet Gu Yuan and propose that he wanted a divorce. It was he who proposed to Gu Yuan to marry Xun'er. Unexpectedly, he also proposed to Gu Yuan for a divorce. Guf smiled bitterly, and then remembered the emotional value he gained last night, and a trace of relief gradually appeared on his face. Next, Guf waited for a while in the hall of the ancient clan. At some point, a figure appeared silently at the first seat in the hall. This figure was about 40 years old and looked like an ordinary middle-aged man, wearing a simple linen shirt and a smile on his face. This man was the patriarch of the ancient clan, Gu Yuan. At this moment, Gu Yuan looked at Guf below with some kindness. As the patriarch, he was very satisfied with the strength of Guf, the leader of the younger generation. As Xun'er's father, he also had a very good impression of his son-in-law. Even so, Guf still felt a great pressure. No matter what, the one standing in front of him was the patriarch of the ancient clan who was much stronger than his grandfather. The strength of the late nine-starred Sheng was invincible in this era when they did not appear. Chapter 5. Is there a cooling-off period for divorce? Why did you come to me this time? Gu Yuan didn't know that Guf had driven Xun'er out of the mountain last night. After all, Xun'er herself knew that she would be embarrassed if others knew about this. When Guf saw Gu Yuan's reaction, he realized that he didn't know yet. When he first came, Guf wanted to make it clear, but Xun'er is Gu Yuan's daughter, and even a tiger won't eat its own cubs. Even though Gu Yuan, as the patriarch, can't openly favor his daughter, he must be biased in dealing with it. Xun'er and I have been married for half a year, and Xun'er is a very good person. But, Guf thought of what Xun'er had done, and although he had let it go in his heart, his tone was still a little obscure. Maybe I'm not good enough, and Xun'er doesn't have me in her heart. Maybe Xun'er and I are not destined to be together, and I'm not suitable for her. Guf stopped talking and looked at Gu Yuan, who had been silent. Could it be that Gu Fei wanted to get together and get divorced? Gu Yuan is surprised. His emotion value increases by 5. The surprise in Gu Yuan's eyes was well hidden. He lowered his eyes and looked at Gu Fei, who was sitting below. It was Gu Fei who begged him and kept emphasizing that he wanted to marry Xun'er. Gu Fei was the leader of the younger generation, and he felt that Gu Fei had a bright future. In addition, he had watched the child grow up, so Gu Yuan agreed. But how could such a change happen after only 6 months of marriage? But then, Gu Yuan was slightly angry. If Xun'er separated from Gu Fei, even if she did nothing wrong, her reputation would probably be greatly affected. Gu Fei silently observed Gu Yuan's reaction, but in the next second, he received a system prompt. Gu Yuan is angry. His emotion value increases by 5. He understood that he was probably going to speak up for his daughter. Gu Yuan would definitely question him next, and Gu Fei would also have to organize some speech. The next explanation must be more tactful. Gu Yuan's eyebrows became more serious, and the whole person unconsciously exuded a faint sense of oppression. He did not do this on purpose, but just made this move subconsciously. Just when Gu Yuan was about to ask Gu Fei the real reason, before he saw him, a female voice came first. "Father, I will not divorce Gu Fei." Then, Xun'er, who had not slept well all night, ran in hurriedly with her skirt lifted. Xun'er is excited, and the emotional value increases by 50. Gu Fei hid the smile on his face and sent his ex-wife to the door. Gu Yuan looked at her noisy appearance, snorted with both love and dissatisfaction, and then let her sit down. Xun'er hesitated for a moment and chose to sit opposite Gu Fei, although she also wanted to sit closer to Gu Fei. Gu Fei didn't give her any face now. She'd better not ask for trouble. As soon as Xun'er sat down, Gu Yuan sat up a little straighter and asked anxiously, "Gu Fei came to me early in the morning to discuss something." "Xun'er, tell Dad, what happened between you and Gu Fei?" The worry on his face made Xun'er look ashamed and lowered her head. Xun'er feels ashamed. Emotional value increases by 50. She hung her head and refused to answer, so Gu Yuan had to look at Gu Fei, helplessly holding his forehead. Gu Fei sighed. He tried to explain why he wanted to divorce in a tactful way. "Xun'er and I have been married for half a year, and I wanted to live in harmony, but between us, we have never been husband and wife." His tactful first sentence made Gu Yuan dumbfounded. Gu Yuan expected that Xun'er might not be able to fall in love with Gu Fei for a while, but he didn't expect that they hadn't consummated their marriage in half a year. He had always hoped that he would have 1 or 2 smart, cute and innocent grandchildren, but it turned into nothing. Gu Yuan saw that Gu Fei wanted to say much more than that, and nodded to signal him to continue. "If it was just this one thing, I would naturally not propose a divorce." "I wonder if you still remember the Xiao family?" Xun'er's face changed. She was naturally afraid that Gu Yuan would put her under house arrest after knowing this and never allow her to see Xiao Yan again. She was even more afraid that Gu Yuan would send someone to kill Xiao Yan in order to stop her from thinking about it. Xun'er becomes nervous. Emotional value increases by 50. "Of course I remember. It was the family in Yuan City that I sent Xun'er to back then," Gu Yuan continued. What was Gu Fei going to say? There was a strange look in his eyes. Xiao Yan, the son of the head of the Xiao family, was a genius who was the best in Yuan City back then. He grew up with Xun'er and got along very well with her, so well that they even. Gu Fei closed his eyes. Even after returning to the Gu family, she had to give Xiao Yan a big gift. Of course, it could be that they are just friends, but she might have been afraid that I would get angry before, so she secretly went to see Xiao Yan without telling me. Xun'er becomes ashamed. Emotional value increases by 100. Xun'er lowered her head and listened to Gu Fei telling her father what she had done in a tactful tone. She did not deny it, but her face was a little red. Gu Yuan becomes angry. Emotional value increases by 5. Gu Yuan was angry with Xun'er after hearing this, but he could also understand Gu Fei at the same time. As a man, if his woman behaved like this, he would be angry. He would even be angry enough to want to divorce her. However, it was Gu Yuan's daughter who made the mistake, so he certainly wanted to protect her. "But, I'm sorry for Gu Fei," Gu Yuan sighed. "Xun'er, how could you do such a thing? How can the boy from the Xiao family compare to your husband, and make you do such a treasonous thing? You really disappoint me." Xun'er feels ashamed. and her emotional value increases by 200. Her father's scolding made Xun'er even more ashamed. Gu Yuan changed the subject. Xun'er must regret doing this. Why don't you go back and think about it for a while? After all, a good son-in-law like Gu Fei is strong and good to his wife. He still has to think more about Xun'er. If you still insist on doing this after a month, then I will agree to let you two divorce. During this month, Gu Fei looked a little strange. He didn't expect that even if he came to the Qi continent, there would still be a so-called cool-off period for divorce. Gu Fei was certainly unwilling to agree to such an absurd request. In 1 month, can he forgive Xun'er for cheating on him? But he couldn't contradict Gu Yuan at the moment, because Gu Fei's strength was not yet at the point where he could do whatever he wanted to the entire Gu clan. Gu Fei had no choice but to nod his head helplessly. Clan leader, then it's up to you. Gu Yuan nodded with satisfaction, but was choked by his next sentence. But I think, after a month, my thoughts will still not change. Gu Yuan is the head of the clan, and his words carry a lot of weight. Since he asked to postpone the separation of Gu Fei and Xun'er, Gu Fei had no choice but to agree temporarily. But who can say for sure what will happen in the future? Chapter 6 Ancient Monster, a waste of the Xiao clan. Is he worthy of it? Gu Fei stood up, bowed respectfully to Gu Yuan, and left. He never gave Xun'er any extra glances from beginning to end. Xun'er and Gu Yuan certainly noticed this. Xun'er didn't know why she felt a little strange in her heart. Didn't Gu Fei have a deep affection for her before? How could it become like this today? She bit her lower lip in dissatisfaction. Seeing Gu Fei leave, Gu Yuan sighed deeply. His daughter was so spoiled and lawless. She was married but still entangled with other men. Wasn't all this because Gu Yuan had doted on Xun'er too much before? Xun'er looked very much like his wife, so he unconsciously lowered his bottom line for Xun'er again and again. As he raised her, his cute and lovely daughter did such an unruly and lawless thing. For a moment, Gu Yuan didn't know whether he was doing the right thing. His response to Gu Fei's request was quite rogue, which of course erased Gu Fei's feelings for Xun'er. It was all because of this girl. Xun'er, do you know you are wrong? Since you have married Gu Fei, you should pay attention to your own behavior. Why do you still meet with men outside? Besides, Gu Fei is better than Xiao Yan in every aspect. What's good about a waste? Gu Yuan sent spies to investigate the Xiao family a long time ago. He naturally knew that Gu Fei's genius was a lie. Xiao Yan of the Xiao family was clearly a waste. Xun'er doesn't like the genius, but she likes a waste. Gu Yuan's tone was not harsh, just the teaching and admonition of an ordinary father to his daughter. He thought his tone was gentle enough, but Xun'er looked aggrieved at this time. Of course, she still didn't think she was wrong. Daddy, it's obviously Gu Fei who really made a fuss. Why are you scolding me? Gu Yuan glared at Xun'er, and seeing her beautiful eyes red, she softened her heart again. He had no choice but to give up. Gu Yuan waved his hand and drove Xun'er away. He also wanted to find a way to persuade Gu Fei. After all, before Gu Fei left, the resolute words he said did not seem false. He really wanted to divorce his former wife. Xun'er turned and left. Gu Yuan sat and pondered for a while, then stood up and left the hall. Next, he planned to find Gu Fei's grandfather Gu Lai to discuss the relationship between the two young people. Gu Yuan still hoped that Gu Lai could persuade Gu Fei. Gu Fei respected his grandfather very much. If Gu Lai spoke up, there might be a chance for this matter to turn around. On the other hand, the news that Gu Fei and Xun'er had successively gone to the clan leader spread quickly in the huge Gu clan. In addition, Gu Yuniu, who was driven out of the mountain with Xun'er by Gu Fei last night, revealed something this morning. Her beautiful eyes were a little excited, and she revealed some of what happened last night in a few words. That was it. Gu Yuniu turned and left, but the rumors in the Gu clan became more and more intense. At present, many people in the Gu clan already knew that the relationship between Gu Fei and Xun'er was a little stiff. Gu Fei's marriage with Xun'er had already caused a lot of discussion in the entire Gu clan. Xun'er is the goddess of the younger generation, and Gu Fei is the most powerful person of the younger generation. Naturally, their combination has attracted discussion. Now, only half a year has passed, and there is a crack in the relationship between the two husband and wife. Naturally, another round of controversy has arisen. After Gu Fei left the hall, he was ready to return to his residence. He had a high level of cultivation, so he naturally discovered that many people were whispering in his direction. Their eyes were all on Gu Fei, but Gu Fei walked towards his residence without changing his expression. Perhaps the matter has spread. Gu Fei shook his head. If his matter spread, it would cause any bad influence, which had nothing to do with him. The followers who were used to complimenting Gu Fei on weekdays stood far away from him at this time. They hid in the corner and whispered, and from time to time, there were doubtful, excited, and resentful eyes on Gu Fei. And Gu Fei, of course, enjoyed this kind of sight. No, he was enjoying the emotional value brought by this rich emotion. Gu Yu has curiosity, and the emotion value increases by 1. Gu Fei has resentment, and the emotion value increases by 1. Gu Yao has anger, and the emotion value increases by 5. Although there are no people with good fortune here, the emotion value brought is just a drop in the bucket. But mosquito meat is also meat, and he will naturally not despise it. However, in the end, the anger from the person named Gu Yao caught his attention. Among the people who were discussing, a man named Gu Yao had anger in his eyes. The anger was caused by Gu Fei, but not by him. Gu Yao also liked Xun'er, because Xun'er was the goddess of the younger generation of the entire Gu clan, so of course he liked her. However, after Xun'er came back to marry Gu Fei, Gu Yao had no choice but to give up. He believed that he abided by the way of a gentleman, and of course he would not do such a bad thing as stealing someone's wife. And Gu Yao was also convinced by Gu Fei. But where did that waste named Xiao Yan come from? Why was Gu Yao so angry? And how did he know Xiao Yan? It turned out that Gu Yao had just learned this morning from Gu Ling, who had gone to pick up Xun'er. The reason why Xun'er and Gu Fei had a dirty relationship this time and their relationship had become strained was most likely because of a loser named Xiao Yan from the northwest continent. Xiao Yan was a man, and since Xun'er and Gu Fei had a bad relationship because of him, it could only mean that Xun'er might have fallen in love with Xiao Yan. Gu Yao was extremely smart, and after listening to Gu Ling's simple suggestion, he figured out the whole story. He was able to give in at the beginning because Gu Fei was good enough and worthy of being Xun'er's husband. But why did Xiao Yan, a loser, deserve that? So, Gu Yao couldn't suppress his anger. He had a murderous intention towards Xiao Yan. Gu Yao sat on the bed, looking at the scenery in the distance, with a sinister look in his eyes filled with murderous intent. A loser like that could actually capture Xun'er's heart more than me and Gu Fei. He deserves to die. Gu Yao's eyes were full of haze, and when he saw Gu Fei passing by the window, he could no longer hold back his anger. He unconsciously transferred his anger to Gu Fei. Gu Fei's system reminded him faithfully, and he looked over as if he had sensed something. He just met the eyes of Gu Yao, who was standing beside the bed with a gloomy look in his eyes. Gu Fei looked at him calmly, smiled lightly, and continued to walk towards the mountain. Gu Yao looked at Gu Fei's calm look, and his murderous intention towards Xiao Yan was even more overwhelming. Such an outstanding man is not as good as a waste in Xun'er's heart. It seems that this Xiao Yan must not stay for long. As soon as this idea was born in his mind, Gu Yao made up his mind. He decided to do it immediately. Gu Yao was originally a decisive person, and now Yan just ran into his gun. It was just a waste, and he killed him if he wanted to. Although he was not a person who killed indiscriminately, who made Xiao Yan covet a person who might not be worthy of him in his lifetime. If it weren't for the fact that the head of the Gu Yuan clan sent Xun'er to that poor place, that waste would never see Xun'er in his life. Chapter 7 The Seventh Great Alchemist, the most shining alchemy genius of the ancient clan. Gu Yao pondered for a moment and called one of his confidants. Rush to the northwest continent immediately. The confidant looked up at him with a little doubt, but saw a strong murderous intent brewing in Gu Yao's eyes. Find Xiao Yan and eliminate that waste. The confidant was frightened by his powerful momentum and gloomy eyes, and cold sweat broke out on his back, and he quickly bowed his head and said yes. Here, the assassins targeting Xiao Yan have been sent out. On the other side, Gu Fei returned to the mountain. After returning to his residence, he sat down to rest for a while. Then he decided to start refining a 7th grade pill. 7th grade pills, if they were put in the outside world, such a genius would scare a group of people. How young is Gu Fei? He is only 16 years old. He can actually refine a 7th grade pill that many alchemists cannot refine in their entire lives. Any of these 7th grade pills can be sold at a sky-high price at an auction. Many 7th grade pills are already treasures that are priceless, and any one of them can stir up blood and drain. Previously, the system upgraded Gu Fei's alchemy to level 7. Naturally, Gu Fei also mastered a large number of 7th grade pill recipes. Gu Fei did not sleep last night, and what he thought about was not only about Xun'er's marriage. More importantly, it was about these 7th grade pills. Since he already had a lot of pill recipes, he naturally had to start trying to refine them. This time, Gu Fei was going to refine a pill that could improve the cultivation of Zong by 1 star. It was called the King Hei pill. It was a 7th grade pill that was in short supply on the market. After all, the advantage of the King Hei pill was that after taking it, it could not only improve the cultivation of Zong by 1 star, but most importantly, it had no side effects. There would be no unstable foundation, and relying on a pill could directly improve the cultivation of Zong masters by 1 star. This 7th grade pill would take a lot of time, even for a 7th grade alchemist, and there was even the possibility of failure. Why did Gu Fei try to refine the 7th grade pill? He recalled the pill recipe provided by the system in his mind and muttered to himself, "Just kill time." Yes, ordinary 7th grade alchemists need to prepare for several weeks or even a month before they dare to start refining 7th grade pills. This time, Gu Fei refined the medicine, partly to kill time. The divorce cooling off period is exactly 1 month. Maybe when the pill is ready, the time has come. After everything is ready, Gu Fei set up restrictions outside the house. He didn't want any strangers to disturb him at a critical juncture. It would be bad if it delayed the alchemy. Days passed, and the two protagonists never showed up in the Gu clan. The discussion about Gu Fei and Xun'er became weak. After all, of course they would have the desire to gossip only when they saw the protagonists. Now that both of them are gone, who knows what they are doing? Besides, daily cultivation is very busy. On the top of the mountain, Gu Fei sat cross-legged by the window, quietly closing his eyes. The alchemy furnace in front of him was small and exquisite, emitting a faint luster. A faint medicinal fragrance hovered in the house. It was not until half a month later that Gu Fei suddenly opened his eyes. The sky above the mountain where he was located had already changed a lot. Outside the mountain, there were no clouds and the sun was shining. Above the mountain, however, there were dense clouds. In between, there were also raging pill thunder. The pill thunder was so thick that it made people feel scared. The pill thunder first gathered in the clouds at a rapid speed, and then struck down as fast as lightning. It hit the house on the top of the mountain. The sound and the impact alarmed many people from the ancient clan around. They all ran to watch. Among them were several alchemists. An alchemist who was quite prestigious among the younger generation looked at the pill thunder in the sky and was stunned. He took a breath of cold air in disbelief. This is the pill thunder that will only appear when the 7th grade elixir is born. Although there were only a few alchemists around, they all knew how precious the 7th grade elixir was. One of the girls praised her, and her face was full of yearning for the strong. I didn't expect that Brother Gu Fei not only has a much higher level of cultivation than ordinary people, but also has a very high level of attainment in alchemy. Yes, Brother Gu Fei is only 16 years old. Miss Xun'er really shouldn't have done that, a more respected person from the ancient clan said, with a little regret in his eyes. After all, Ms. Xun'er is also a very talented person. The combination of her and Gu Fei will definitely allow the ancient clan to move to a higher level. However, Ms. Xun'er has another man in her heart. There were many discussions around, most of which were in an admiring tone, and these emotions of admiration and envy from many people for Gu Fei were all integrated into the system. Gu Tian has admiration emotions, and the emotion value increases by 1. Gu Yan has admiration emotions, and the emotion value increases by 1. Gu Yikan has admiration emotions, and the emotion value increases by 1. These fine and dense emotion values were all collected by the system. Gu Fei listened to the emotional value being recorded one by one with satisfaction. Although small, trickles can also merge into the sea, right? And the last prompt sound made his mouth curl up. Xun'er feels depressed, and her mood value increases by 100. It turns out that Xun'er has also come, and is now among the people of the ancient clan around. Of course, no one there has discovered Xun'er's arrival, only Gu's system exposed her. At this time, Xun'er hid in the dark, looking up at the house on the top of the mountain like the people around her. She couldn't help but think that she lived there a few days ago. If Gu hadn't mentioned the separation, would she also be the object of everyone's envy at this time? Instead of being pitied by everyone, it's a pity that she shouldn't have chosen another man. Xun'er heard all the discussions of the crowd, and she had a high level of cultivation. The noisy discussion was like a knife or a sword, piercing her ears and piercing her heart. Originally, shouldn't she not care about everything about Gu? Why did she feel depressed when listening to the discussions of this group of people? Xun'er felt very uncomfortable, biting her lower lip with her pearly teeth. She frowned and looked up at the distant mountaintop. Xun'er's eyes were empty, and I don't know what she was thinking. Although Xun'er didn't like Gu, her admiration for the strong made her come over, because Xun'er had noticed the movement in this area early on, like the pressure of a high-level elixir about to be born. She hurried over to join in the fun. After all, her father Gu Yuan was really angry at the time, and even announced that she would be confined to her house for a month. Only when Gu came to see his father again would Xun'er be allowed to move freely. Deep in her heart, Xun'er unconsciously blamed Gu. Half a month later, she realized that a high-level elixir was about to be born here, and she sneaked out while Gu Yuan was not paying attention. On the way, Xun'er was still excited, thinking that another old generation of strong men from the Gu clan had made a high-level elixir. Unexpectedly, the one who made the 7th grade elixir was Gu. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8 Xun'er's Questioning. Xun'er felt a little uncomfortable watching the 7th grade elixir coming out of Gu's hands. She thought about it and decided to put aside what happened yesterday for the time being. After all, the yearning for the strong is something that every person in the ancient clan must have in their hearts. Although she didn't like Gu, it would be okay to bless him for refining the 7th grade elixir. She successfully persuaded herself to meet Gu and put the unpleasant discussion she had just heard behind her. Xun'er was just about to congratulate Gu and explain the previous things. She still wanted to ease the relationship between her and Gu. After all, a genius like Gu would be proud to be her husband. Xun'er couldn't remember why Gu proposed a divorce. She still felt that Gu was making a fuss about nothing. It was just a small matter. Was it necessary to propose a divorce? Xun'er still thought that as long as she took a step back, Gu would forgive her. After all, Gu liked her so much in the past, and the first request he made to Gu Yuan was to marry her. Gu loves her very much, doesn't he? Who knows? The next second, Xun'er's steps stopped where they were. She had already walked to the foot of the mountain and was about to step up. A servant came over to stop her. Sorry, Ms. Xun'er, the master has issued an order to expel us, and ordered no one to disturb us. The servant spoke in a light tone with obvious politeness. It didn't seem like he was talking to the wife of the owner of this mountain. Xun'er glared with anger. These servants had never called her Ms. Xun'er before, and their attitude had never been so distant. In the past, even if Gu wanted to practice and issued an order to expel her, he would not stop her. She has always been free to enter and exit this mountain. This was the promise that Gu made when he married her. This mountain with rich fighting spirit would never stop Xun'er. Seeing this, Xun'er wanted to speak, but was blocked by the servant's words. The master has decided to start refining the next pill immediately, and no one can disturb him. Even a genius like Xun'er was shocked after hearing what the servant said. To refine the next one? Moreover, judging from the importance Gu attached to it, it is very likely to be another high-level pill. Xun'er couldn't help but sigh in her heart. Is Gu a monster? Ordinary 7th grade alchemists will completely lose their fighting spirit after refining a 7th grade pill. They need to rest for a few days or even more than 10 days before they can recover. After all, refining a 7th grade pill requires a huge amount of fighting spirit and is very mentally exhausting. There are even many people who hurt their origins when refining 7th grade pills, and it is difficult for them to improve their strength in their lifetime. Gu Fei just refined a 7th grade pill here, and he is going to refine the next one immediately. Doesn't he need to rest at all? He is a complete monster. The servant said so much. Xun'er could only give up. She stamped her feet and walked away angrily. All of this was seen by one person. Everything depends on God's will. The man sighed in his heart, revealing a plain face that had been weathered. Although he looked very ordinary at first, the dark light that occasionally flashed in his eyes made it impossible to ignore his existence. The top person of the ancient clan, the Black Annihilation King Gu Fei, was looking down at that side from a high place. Gu Fei had been watching the two young people quarreling for a long time. He smiled helplessly and sighed leisurely. Gu Yuan came to Gu Fei to talk about this matter that day. Gu Yuan laid out the matter with Gu Fei with a little embarrassment, and tactfully asked him to persuade Gu Fei. When he first heard about this, Gu Fei was of course dissatisfied. He waited for Gu Yuan to leave and snorted coldly. His grandson was cheated by his grandson's wife, and Gu Yuan wanted him to persuade Gu Fei to forgive Xun'er. How ridiculous! And Gu Fei is not an ordinary person. Why should he give in again and again? But the clan leader asked him to persuade Gu Fei so earnestly, and Gu Fei had to agree on the surface. But what can he do about Gu Fei? Gu Fei knew his grandson's character very well. He was a man of his own ideas. Even if Gu Fei used his grandfather's status to pressure him, he would not do it if he didn't want to. Therefore, Gu Fei did not have the confidence to persuade Gu Fei. Moreover, privately, he did not want his grandson, who was the pride of heaven, to suffer such grievances. It was just a woman. There were so many in the world. Why did Gu Fei hang himself on this tree? A long time passed again. Every day, there were endless people from the ancient clan coming to the foot of Gu Fei's mountain. They looked up, their hearts full of admiration. The emotional value was slowly collected into the system, and finally, the second 7th grade elixir was born. The familiar dark clouds and elixir thunder gathered on the mountain again. Around Gu Fei's mountain, countless people from the ancient clan gathered again to watch. The elixir thunder struck down in waves, and the terrifying pressure stretched for hundreds of miles. Many people below were a little pale and could not resist this pressure. Some people began to worry whether Gu Fei would get into trouble. After all, he did not stop in the middle. He refined 2 7th grade pills in succession and withstood 2 pill thunders. Is this something to worry about? Who is brother Gu Fei? A mere pill thunder is nothing to worry about. That's right. If you have time to worry about brother Gu Fei, you might as well think about how to improve your own pill refining skills. The people around him laughed kindly, and the man also touched his head with a red face. He secretly decided to ask brother Gu Fei for advice next time. A 16-year-old genius in refining medicine. I am afraid that even if I study hard for a lifetime, I can't catch up. At this time, Xun'er came angrily. She stood at the foot of the mountain, her almond eyebrows raised, and her eyes were full of anger. Xun'er has angry emotions, and the emotion value increases by 200. Gu Fei frowned and opened his eyes to look down the mountain. Looking down the mountain, there was a small figure. The figure's energy was deep in the Danshan, and his voice was obviously angry. She attached chi to the voice, so that the voice could spread and let Gu Fei on the top of the mountain hear it clearly. Gu Fei, I didn't expect you to be this kind of person. You actually sent someone to kill brother Xiao Yan. There was an uproar around. Some people who knew the inside story didn't believe Xun'er's words, while some were secretly thinking and hesitating. Xiao Yan was obviously the son of the head of the Xiao family in Yuan city, and was also Xun'er's previous lover. Could it be that Gu Fei was betrayed by his wife, and because of love, he turned to hate, and jealousy drove him to hurt Xiao Yan? He even wanted to kill the adulterer, but when someone tentatively proposed this view, he was drowned out by the voices of opposition. How is it possible? That's brother Gu Fei. That's right. Would he hurt an ordinary person because of Xun'er? And brother Gu Fei obviously doesn't like Xun'er anymore, and he is not a person who kills indiscriminately. Those who knew the inside story here didn't believe Xun'er's one-sided words, and those who didn't know naturally didn't believe it even more. They usually watched what kind of person Gu Fei was. Chapter 9. The truth is revealed. Gu Fei is kind and generous, but also modest and cautious. When facing Xun'er, He loves her deeply. Xun'er hurt him. Although Gu Fei was hurt, he would never kill Xiao Yan. Some kind-hearted people from the Gu clan went to persuade Xun'er. Ms. Xun'er, are you mistaken? Yes. How could Brother Gu Fei want to hurt people? Seeing that everyone around was defending Gu Fei, Xun'er stamped her feet in hatred, her eyes red. You don't believe me? Gu Fei is obviously jealous of Xiao Yan, so he wants to destroy him. Xun'er was so angry that she said something without thinking. As soon as she said it, she regretted it. This was clearly not what Xun'er wanted to say. Xun'er has regrets. Emotional value increases by 100, but regret is useless. What she said is like spilled water. How can she take it back if she wants to? Xun'er's voice is not loud, but the accompanying fighting spirit makes Gu Fei on the top of the mountain hear it clearly. Faced with Xun'er's questioning and unreasonable troubles, Gu Fei was a little annoyed even if he had a good temper. However, this also made him more determined to divorce. Today, Xun'er could question him for a trumped-up charge. Tomorrow, will she take Yan to his mountain in broad daylight? Gu Fei sneered and glanced slowly down the mountain. He closed the window and ignored the furious Xun'er. Gu Fei didn't bother to explain anything. If you want to accuse someone, you can always find a pretext. Since Xun'er thinks he has done something he has never done, let her do it. Let Xun'er be the one who makes trouble. It's just a little too noisy. Gu Fei helplessly held his forehead and set up the formation around the house again. The house finally fell into silence again. The faint fragrance of the elixir lingered between Gu Fei's nostrils. Gu Fei picked up a small elixir and looked at it in front of his eyes. Immediately, he showed a faint smile. Success again. On this side, Gu Fei was absorbed in refining the elixir, while on the other side, Yuan had already learned about the absurd things that happened today at the foot of Gu Fei's mountain. Xun'er stood beside Yuan with an unhappy face and frowned. She was confined by Yuan again, and this time it was the formation set by Yuan himself, and she couldn't solve it even if she spent 3 days and 3 nights. Just reflect on yourself. You were too noisy today. Xun'er glared at him and curled her lips. I will personally investigate this matter and give you and Gu Fei an explanation. After he said that, he left. After a detailed search and investigation, Yuan's findings made him frown unconsciously. The result of his investigation was that Gu Fei had never talked to anyone else. For nearly a month, Gu Fei was completely isolated from the outside world in his own mountain. He spent a whole month refining the elixir, and no one approached his house during this period. It was impossible for Gu Fei to arrange someone to kill Xiao Yan. This conclusion has been verified by many parties and is a foregone conclusion. The matter would have ended here, but Xun'er kept clamoring for an explanation, so Gu Fei had to investigate further. Following the clues, he actually found a person who had nothing to do with the matter. That person turned out to be Gu Yao. Yuan sent someone to invite Gu Yao to the main hall for a talk. Since Gu Yao dared to send his men to assassinate Xiao Yan, he was not afraid of being held accountable. After all, he was just a waste, who cared about his life or death. After Yuan seriously questioned Gu Yao did not hesitate and readily admitted the matter. As expected but also unreasonable, Yuan did not punish him. Who is Gu Yao, and who is Xiao Yan? The Xiao family is a declining family. If Xun'er hadn't kept asking, he would not have bothered to investigate. Just ask, if an elephant stepped on an ant to death, who would care? Even if the people sent by Gu Yao really succeeded and killed Xiao Yan, Yuan, a clan leader of a powerful clan in a hidden world, would not care. Moreover, Gu Yao told him that Xiao Yan was not dead. His subordinates reported to him that Xiao Yan was only seriously injured and missing, and it seemed that a mysterious strong man had rescued him. Yuan was a little surprised when he heard this. According to his intelligence, Xiao Yan's current strength is still not up to him. Moreover, there is no supreme strong man in the entire Xiao family, or even in the entire Yuan city, which powerful man is behind Xiao Yan. However, Yuan quickly put this matter behind him. After all, he is very busy every day. How could he spend too much time and energy on such a small matter? The previous behavior was already an exception for Xun'er. Thinking of his willful daughter, Yuan couldn't help but sigh. He didn't notice that Gu Yao had an unwilling expression on his face. Gu Yao thought that Xiao Yan was still the unarmed waste, and he looked down on the strongest person in their family.
Therefore, Gu Yao was too arrogant and sent out assassins who were only low-level Zong. Although low-level Zong were not very impressive in the Gu clan, they were completely powerless in the Zhao family. Gu Yao was confidently waiting for the good news from his subordinates. What he waited for was the news that Xiao Yan was seriously injured and missing, and was suspected to be rescued by a mysterious strong man. He crushed the porcelain cup in his hand with a ferocious look, and hated Xiao Yan more and more in his heart. The subordinate said that Xiao Yan was completely unable to resist him at that time and was on the verge of death. But in the next second, a drastic change occurred. Xiao Yan's momentum surged, and the pressure that was inadvertently leaked actually made him a little scared. The subordinate just subconsciously retreated for a moment, and Xiao Yan disappeared. He was afraid of Gu Yao's punishment, so he searched everywhere in a 10-mile radius, but after digging 3 feet in the ground, he still couldn't find Xiao Yan. After hearing this, Gu Yao's face was gloomy, and his eyes were full of anger and hatred. If he catches Xiao Yan again, he must kill him to vent his anger, because Xiao Yan was assassinated for no reason. Xun'er didn't believe her husband at all. She had thought about repairing her relationship with Gu Fei before, but now, she didn't look at any evidence at all and hated Gu Fei. If it weren't for Gu Fei, how could brother Xiao Yan be seriously injured, and how could he be missing? Xun'er's beautiful eyes were filled with anger, and she looked at a house on the top of the mountain in the distance with dissatisfaction. Gu Fei stayed in the house for several days, and after verification, he confirmed that there was no problem with the King Hei Yan. He was quite interested in repairing the house that had become a mess because of the Danlei. Suddenly, he remembered that he was refining the elixir to kill time, and then he remembered the speechless 1-month divorce cooling-off period. Now that more than a month has passed, it's time to look for Gu Yuan again. Gu Fei didn't believe that after this incident, Gu Yuan still dared to use the majesty of the clan leader to suppress him. Chapter 10. Finally divorced. This time, Gu Yuan really felt ashamed because of Xun'er's unreasonable behavior. He recalled what Xun'er had done and how he had protected Xun'er and forced Gu Fei not to divorce for the time being, and he felt his scalp tingling. How many wrong things had he done because of Xun'er? Gu Yuan shook his head helplessly, and it was not easy to persuade the two again. He told Xun'er all the evidence he had found personally in the conversation with Gu Yao that day. Xun'er blushed a little, realizing that she might have wronged Gu Fei, but she was always stubborn and of course she would never admit her mistakes. She just snorted in dissatisfaction and walked away. But she happened to run into Gu Fei, who hurried over at the door of the hall. The former husband and wife met now, but one was dissatisfied and the other didn't care at all. Xun'er stopped and bit her lower lip and wanted to speak. Gu Fei brushed past her without looking back, as if he didn't see Xun'er at all. Gu Yuan certainly noticed the movement at the door. He sighed and took a sip of tea. Gu Fei stood tall and graceful, with a firm look on his face. He didn't say much, and Gu Yuan shook his head, feeling that Xun'er and him were not destined to be together. He asked again solemnly, "Do you really want to separate from Xun'er?" Gu Fei nodded, yes. Gu Yuan wanted to make one last effort, so he asked, "Will you never regret it?" Gu Fei pondered for a moment. Xun'er has an expectation emotion, and the emotion value increases by 50. It turned out that Xun'er didn't know why. Even though she was ignored by Gu Fei, she stubbornly stood at the door and didn't leave. Gu Fei turned his back to her and fell into a brief silence. Xun'er actually felt a little strange in her heart. Is Gu Fei going to regret it? She is not a toy that can be summoned and dismissed at will, but if Gu Fei wants to regret it, she can reluctantly accept it. Xun'er crossed her arms and thought angrily, but she heard Gu Fei's cold words, "Never regret it." Xun'er's beautiful eyes widened, looking at Gu Fei's back in disbelief. Just as Gu Yuan was about to speak, he was interrupted by Xun'er. She rushed forward and stood in front of Gu Fei. You really want to separate from me?" Gu Fei then gave her his first look of the day. He lowered his head and looked down at Xun'er, his eyes no longer showing the tenderness and love they had before. "What else?" Xun'er was stunned for a moment, and tasted the taste of regret for the first time. Xun'er feels regret, and her emotion value increases by 10. Gu Fei turned around and tried to leave, but she grabbed his sleeve. He turned his head without emotion, but saw that Xun'er had cried in front of him for the first time. She didn't seem to understand where her tears came from, and wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes in a daze. The beautiful woman looked at you with moist eyes, and the corners of her eyes were red. Any man would be soft-hearted, but Gu Fei didn't want to. He pulled off his sleeves distantly and waited politely for Xun'er to speak. I won't go to see Brother Xiao Yan anymore. Can you please not separate from me? Brother Gu Fei, okay? Gu Fei's expression was a little subtle. How long has it been since Xun'er called him brother? For the first time in a long time, she actually begged him not to separate before she could say it reluctantly. The last bit of affection that Gu Fei had for Xun'er in his heart was crushed by her hands, cleanly. Do you think it's meaningful to say this now? Gu Fei turned his head and walked towards the door slowly. A word came from afar. My decision will never change. Gu Fei's figure was so close to Xun'er, but she felt that she could no longer hold him. Xun'er has regretful emotions. Emotional value plus 200. Xun'er has sad emotions. Emotional value plus 200. Xun'er slumped in the quaint wooden chair, with clear and visible sadness in her eyes. Daddy, did I really do something wrong? Yuan looked at her deeply, and left without saying a word. What happened in the hall today was soon spread. Xun'er's willfulness was despised by many young people of the ancient clan, and the affectionate person who endured humiliation was also more distressed by them. Brother Gu Fei, such an excellent man, was actually broken-hearted by Xun'er. However, many women of the ancient clan reacted. Since Gu Fei had separated from Xun'er, didn't it mean that they would have a chance? Which girl had not fantasized about such a handsome and elegant genius late at night? In the following days, whenever Gu Fei left the mountain, many women surrounded him. There were the elder's granddaughters with pretty looks who gave him flowers, and there were also childhood sweethearts who grew up with him and went out with him. Even many women who were a little older than Gu Fei came. They found various reasons to approach Gu Fei. Gu Yan has admiration emotions, and the emotion value increases by 1. Gu Ting has admiration emotions, and the emotion value increases by 1. Such emotion values have been pouring in continuously in the past few days. There was even one day when Gu Fei was practicing in the mountain. Several old antiques came to visit him in person. There were 2 or 3 petite girls following behind them, hiding shyly behind them. They poked their heads out from time to time, looking at him with sparkling eyes. Even if Gu Fei was slow, he still reacted. This couldn't be a matchmaker for him. An elder patted the back of his hand affectionately, saying some intimate words, but in his words, he praised his granddaughter for her exquisite appearance and strong strength. Gu Fei had never been afraid of anything, but the burning eyes of the elders and girls in front of him were all focused on him. The burning eyes of seeing a rare treasure made Gu Fei a little restless. After sending them away with great difficulty, Gu Fei sighed for a long time. Although they were all kind-hearted, Gu Fei couldn't bear it. With so many beauties, they were not afraid that Gu Fei would be full. After several days of tossing and turning, he also understood that these people were all interested in him. However, under such an intensive siege, Gu Fei never agreed to anyone from beginning to end. Now, he just wants to work hard to become stronger. But it has been too stable in the ancient world. Apart from Xun'er, there is no one with high luck to provide emotional value for the system. In other words, it is not easy for Gu Fei to become stronger in the ancient world. If he wants to practice steadily, it is natural. The ancient world is rich in cultivation resources, and his grandfather Gu Lai is a highly respected person in the ancient clan. As long as he can concentrate on practicing hard, his future achievements will definitely be great. But Gu Fei, who has the system in his hand and has experienced the power of the system, how can he be willing to stay in such a place and practice hard? He yearns to become stronger quickly and to have the power to rival the top strong men. This requires relying on his opportunities. That is, a system that is like a god, which can do everything as long as there is emotional value. Gu Fei thought about it and finally decided to go to the Northwest Continent. Chapter 11. Heading to the Northwest Continent. There are a large number of people with high luck in the Northwest Continent. If he could cause the mood of the people with high luck in the Northwest Continent, Gu Fei narrowed his eyes. That would be much better than staying in the ancient world. And with his current strength, he could gain a foothold in the Northwest Continent. The Northwest Continent is barren and has scarce resources, so it is generally difficult for strong people to emerge. Although there are top figures, in terms of overall strength, It is completely inferior to the eastern region. Not to mention Gu's strength, just the ability to refine the 7th grade elixir at the beginning can make him a guest of honor by many big families. After all, the 7th grade elixir is not something that can be found everywhere in the entire northwest continent. Since he has decided to leave, Gu must be prepared. He never fights unprepared battles. Although he is confident in his own strength, Gu never likes to be arrogant. It is better to make sufficient preparations. The ancient world has abundant cultivation resources and rare medicinal materials. It would be a pity if Gu did not use them. With his status and strong strength recognized by all the young generation, many resources will be tilted towards Gu when they are allocated. Not to mention that he has a grandfather who is the Black Annihilation King. There were still a lot of precious medicinal materials left from refining the 7th grade elixir last time, and Gu collected them all. He also brought a lot of cultivation resources and stuffed them all into the storage ring. Gu has been busy with resources these days. When he took a break, he remembered that he forgot to say hello to his grandfather Gu Lai. Walking slowly to the door, Gu raised his hand and knocked on the door. After a while, Gu Lai opened the door and smiled faintly when he saw his grandson who had been missing all day. Although he is Gu's grandfather, he does not look very old. On the contrary, Gu Lai has a handsome face and a straight figure. He looks to be in his 30s or 40s, and his eyes are shining with an inconspicuous light. There is no fluctuation of fighting spirit in Gu Lai, but Gu knows that if his grandfather does not take action, it will be fine, but if he does, it will definitely bleed. If anyone dares to look down on him because of his appearance, then that person is finished. Grandpa, I plan to travel around. I can't become stronger if I stay in the ancient world. Gu simply said it directly. After all, Gu Lai could understand him best. Gu Lai knew the news of Gu and Xun'er's separation early on. Although he didn't deliberately look for Gu, he knew that his grandson might be in a bad mood now. Even though Gu looked calm and didn't care, but Gu's loving look when he asked Xun'er to marry him before, he, as a grandfather, remembered it clearly. At that time, Yuan agreed, and Gu couldn't hold back his smile all day, but Gu Lai laughed for a long time. Now Gu's temperament has become much more stable, and there are no obvious fluctuations in his emotions. Gu Lai didn't know whether this was good or bad. He just wanted his grandson to be healthy and happy. Gu took the initiative to ask to go out, or go for a walk outside. Gu Lai didn't care whether Gu's strength could be improved. In his opinion, his grandson was good enough and talented, and his strength would definitely reach the peak in the future, and it wouldn't take this little time. Gu hoped that Gu would be happier, and Gu has always been a man with ideas. Since he had proposed it, Gu Lai naturally agreed happily. He also took out a lot of good treasures and a lot of cultivation resources from the bottom of the box and stuffed them all to Gu. Gu didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so he had to take them all. After he packed up all his things, he simply said goodbye to Gu Lai and left the ancient world in a low-key manner. Gu didn't tell anyone except Gu Lai. But he is a celebrity in the ancient world. If he hasn't seen him for a few days, there will always be smart people who can guess that Gu has left the ancient world. But these are all later stories. At this time, Gu left the ancient world and entered the ancient saint city, and had arrived in the eastern region. The ancient saint city is where the passage connecting the ancient world and the outside world is located. As soon as he stepped out of the space, he felt a series of burning gazes. The ancient saint city strictly prohibits outsiders from entering, and most of the people guarding it are strong men of the ancient clan. And these strong men all know Gu, who is the strongest man of the younger generation. But they are well trained and did not come over to talk. Just standing there, looking at Gu with eyes that admired the strong, Gu paused for a moment, then walked towards the gate of ancient saint city. The guards guarding the gate greeted him respectfully, and then stepped aside to let him go out. If the name of ancient saint city is the most famous in the East region, then the ancient world is the emperor of the entire East region. The East region of Zhongzhou is extremely vast, and there are all kinds of people. If you want to get involved here, the easiest way is to have a subordinate force of the ancient clan on your head. There are even many people in the East region who regard the people of the ancient clan as gods and worship them crazily. This crazy attitude is shocking. but it also glimpses how lofty the status of the ancient clan in the East region is. If Gu Fei chooses to develop in the East region, he will be like a fish in water, and it will be smooth sailing. However, although the East region is good, it is not the place where Gu Fei wants to train. He is going to the rather barren Northwest continent. Gu Fei has already embarked on a journey to the Northwest continent, but he received an inexplicable system prompt. Xun'er feels regret. Emotion value increases by 300. It turns out that on the other side, the news of Gu Fei's leaving the ancient world spread secretly. Xun'er learned about this and felt even more regretful. But there was no change after this reminder. Gu Fei's eyes were indifferent and he didn't care. In the ancient world, although Xun'er regretted it, she seemed to be more worried about the safety of her brother Xiao Yan. After all, since the ancient demon sent people to kill Xiao Yan and he was seriously injured and disappeared, Xun'er has never seen Xiao Yan again. Xun'er convinced herself in her heart that she went to the Northwest continent this time to find her brother Xiao Yan. It was not because Gu Fei also went there. After convincing herself, she planned to quietly leave the ancient world and go to the Northwest continent. In the ancient world, Xun'er left quietly that day, and her figure was seen by many people. Although she wanted to sneak away, she could do it without being discovered by most people with her strength. But because Xun'er was uneasy and distracted when she was about to leave, some people found that she had left the ancient world. Because Gu Fei and Xun'er, two of the most talented young men and women in the world, left one after another, many people were filled with emotion. You said, Brother Gu Fei and Ms. Xun'er left the ancient world. Are they looking for opportunities? If a peerless genius like Brother Gu Fei leaves, should we stay in the ancient world or follow his footsteps and leave together if we want to become stronger? The people of the ancient clan have always been strong, but they also admire the strong. They will try every means to become stronger, but they will not use such despicable means. Chapter 12. First stop. Blackhorn region. Gu Fei and Xun'er, both of them are talented boys and girls of the ancient clan. They are almost the targets pursued by the young people of the ancient clan. Many girls who admire Gu Fei have the idea of following Gu Fei's footsteps when they hear that Gu Fei is leaving, in the hope of gaining Gu Fei's love. If they can accompany him for a while and let Gu Fei fall in love with them, it would be great. For a while, many young women in the ancient world have their minds fluctuated. They are no longer immersed in cultivation and want to go to the outside world. But when Gu Yuan and Gu Lai and other senior officials heard about this, their expressions were a little serious. They were naturally the first to notice that Gu Fei and Xun'er had left. After all, with their strength, any slight movement in the entire ancient world could not be hidden from this group of people. Let Gu Fei leave because he has enough strength to protect himself. But now, no one left in the ancient world can match Gu Fei. Therefore, they are worried that these children will encounter accidents when they go out, so they don't want them to leave the ancient world. Moreover, the ancient people have always felt that in the ancient world, the energy of heaven and earth is abundant, and they have no need to go out to venture. A group of high-ranking officials gathered in the hall to discuss matters with the clan leader Gu Yuan, who was sitting in the highest position. Everyone was opposed to allowing the younger generation of the ancient clan to leave the ancient world. Therefore, when the younger generation wanted to go out, some high-ranking officials came forward and stopped them. At the same time, Gu Yuan officially ordered that the rest of the people were not allowed to leave without permission. So the ancient clan returned to its former peace, but it was unknown whether this peace could last. On the other hand, Gu Fei was traveling in the space wormhole all the way. Because the East region is really far away from the Northwest continent, it will take several months to jump through the space wormhole. The road was not smooth and there were many twists and turns. Gu Fei usually doesn't like to use Qi to suppress others, nor does he like to release Qi. Gu Lai taught him since he was a child to restrain his Qi so that others can't figure out his true strength. Gu Lai himself is the same. On the surface, he looks like an ordinary person with no Qi at all, but whoever really dares to attack him will regret it for life. Gu Lai has always believed that there are people beyond people and there are heavens beyond heavens. Although his strength has reached the top of the ancient world, no one can say that he is the best in the world. There are always more powerful people. If he encounters bad luck at that time, He can cheat with his weak strength and maybe he can still win a chance of survival. There is a reason why Gu Fei did this. When he was young, he was very sharp and thought he was the best in the world. He never restrained his fighting spirit and never thought that people with stronger strength than him could easily judge his realm. At that time, his mortal enemy was not as strong as him, so he went to invite the ancestor of his family. The ancestor's face was eternal. When Gu Fei met him for the first time, he thought that this person was young and must be not as strong as him. So he used his terrifying momentum to suppress him, but he was solved by that person with a light move. Although Gu Fei finally saved his life, he learned to be low-key and introverted, so he began to think of ways to prevent the fighting spirit from being released and to keep it in his body. He also taught this practice method to Gu Fei. Gu Fei was of course smart and understood it at once. Isn't this just pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger? Gu Fei reacted and seriously learned how to restrain his fighting spirit. Since he learned it, he has never released his fighting spirit completely. Sometimes even Gu Yuan and Gu Fei would be fooled by him and really thought that this kid's strength had not improved. But Gu Fei's fans didn't think so. Although they were not as strong as Gu Fei, they could also sense the intensity of his fighting spirit fluctuations. If Gu Fei's momentum was like a prison and abyss before, with terrible pressure, then he is now like a calm sea, looking completely harmless, but a terrible nightmare is hidden in the depths. Those who admired Gu Fei only thought that Gu Fei's strength had skyrocketed, and they could no longer detect his strength. Naturally, everyone admired Gu Fei even more, and Gu Fei was also smiling, enjoying the tiny emotional value brought by this admiration. Having said that, because he had been hiding his strength and the fighting spirit fluctuations on his body, several people in this space wormhole had their eyes on him. Gu Fei's clothes looked very ordinary, but those who knew the goods carefully could find out how rare the fabric was. Apart from other things, his pair of cloud boots are made of the skin of cloud beasts. Cloud beasts are almost extinct in the northwest continent, and the strength of each cloud beast is extremely terrifying. But the young man looks ordinary, but he has so many treasures. He is probably a disciple who sneaked out from a big family or a hidden sect. There are many vicious people hiding in the space wormhole. They are afraid of being hunted by their enemies, so they have been hiding in the space wormhole so that they can escape at any time. Now, there is such a rich little fat sheep running in. Isn't it a wolf's den? These desperate people never look at other people's family background. As long as the person is valuable and easy to bully, they will rush up like evil wolves. So for several days, Gu Fei had no peace. He had to face a hand that could reach out from the dark at any time, or a sword that appeared out of thin air. Those people wanted to kill him and then take the treasure and escape. Gu Fei sneered. Do these people really think he is easy to bully? Of course, facing the sneak attack, he was not soft-handed at all. He beat one by one and two by two. Those people came in a rage and left in a hurry. No one expected that such a terrifying strength was hidden in the body of the seemingly weak young man. So after that, no one would disturb his journey. Gu Fei could also rush on the road without distraction and set off for his destination. Gu Fei's first destination was the Black Horn region. Because of his skills, he needed to absorb the strange fire. Therefore, Gu Fei wanted to take Han Feng's Sea Heart Flame away directly. So, after 2.5 months of trekking, Gu finally came to the famous Black Horn region in the northwest continent. Here, because of the special terrain, it has almost become the most chaotic area in the entire continent. Countless fugitives from various countries have fallen here and established the most barbaric rules. There is no legal constraint in the Black Horn region. There is only one law, the law of the jungle. In other words, it is the law of the jungle, and the weak have no right to survive here. This is an extremely pure area. As long as you want, no one will stop you even if you rape a woman in the street. Of course, the premise is that you'd better choose a good target when you are preparing. Otherwise, the end may be quite miserable. In the Black Horn region, women may sometimes be more terrible than men. For one reason only, they survived here. In addition, the Black Horn region can also be called an intelligence intersection of the continent. Every day, countless intelligence flows out from here, and then countless intelligence flows in from outside. Chapter 13 Taking the Sea Heart Flame. Han Feng's Fear. The Black Horn region can give you the fastest shortcut. Of course, The premise is that you must have enough strength and capital, otherwise, you will lose your life before you become famous. As a chaotic region famous on the continent, strong people die here every day, and strong people come from outside every day. This area is full of death, challenges and temptations. Here, the high-level skills, fighting skills, various magic weapons and armors, medicine tripods, medicinal materials, high-level elixirs, etc. that are difficult to see outside are dazzling. It is said that the ground-level skills have appeared twice in the auction house of the Black Horn region. Of course, if you want to get these, you need to pay a price. This price may be money or other products. In short, there will never be pie in the sky in the Black Horn region. Although Gu Fei came here for the first time, he was very clear about the power of the Black Horn region. He covered his face and found a place to inquire about the news. After finding out the location of Fengcheng, Gu Fei rushed over. Fengcheng is located outside the mountains that stretch for thousands of miles in the inner courtyard of Canaan Academy. The city is not big, but it holds a pivotal position in the Black Horn region. The reason is that Han Feng, the medicine king of the Black Horn region, lives here. As the #1 in the art of alchemy in the Black Horn region, Han Feng, who has already become a 6th-grade alchemist, has a high status in the hearts of many forces and even strong people. Of course, a 6th-grade alchemist is not too bad even if you look at the entire continent. At least he is better than others. Ordinary Huang and even Duzong masters have to be polite when meeting him. After all, everyone knows how much appeal a 6th-grade alchemist has. Fengcheng, this city, is named after Han Feng. This honor, in the Black Horn region full of chaos and killing, only a handful of people can enjoy, and Han Feng is one of them. In the center of the city is a bamboo forest that is completely different from the noisy market outside. This bamboo forest has extremely strict defenses. Ordinary people can't even enter it. Even if they get close to a certain range, they will be attacked indiscriminately. Every year, many people are killed by the bamboo forest guards for these reasons. Therefore, although this place is quiet, it is also a forbidden place in the hearts of many people in Fengcheng. Deep in the bamboo forest, there is a bamboo building, and there is also a tall bamboo room next to the window. A man sat cross-legged, wearing a set of alchemist robes. On the back of the robe, there is a very finely crafted Feng character. At this time, the man was concentrating on a prescription in his hand, with no distractions, and he seemed very focused. In the quiet concentrating, the man with his head down suddenly raised his head and looked around with sharp eyes. Gu Fei had already come to this place. Although Han Feng did not find anything unusual, he felt uneasy. He glanced around, and there was no movement under the perception of fighting spirit. Han Feng feels uneasy, gains 15 points of emotion. Just as Han Feng lowered his head again, Gu Fei appeared silently and stood one step behind Han Feng. Han Feng turned his head suddenly and was frightened by Gu Fei. Han Feng feels fear, gains 20 points of emotion. How could it be possible that this person broke through all defenses and suddenly appeared beside him without being discovered by anyone? Han Feng didn't understand why this person came here, and didn't dare to attack him rashly. Gu Fei looked very weak, but Han Feng had been in the Black Horn region for many years, and his intuition told him that this kid was very dangerous. Whether it was to delay time or test, Han Feng politely clasped his fists and asked, "Little brother, why did you suddenly come to my bamboo building?" "Han Feng, I came here for your sea heart flame." Gu Fei spoke directly and stated his purpose. Han Feng was naturally shocked and angry. This sea heart flame is like his lifeblood. Without it, his ability to refine medicine will be greatly reduced. Gu Fei suddenly appeared inexplicably, and asked for the sea heart flame as soon as he opened his mouth. He was so angry that he thought, maybe Gu Fei had a treasure that could block his breath. So he suddenly appeared. It was definitely not because of his superior strength. Han Feng's eyes suddenly closed slowly, and his fingertips flicked lightly. A deep blue flame like clear lake water strangely emerged from his body and finally wrapped him tightly. This deep blue flame was quite strange. It looked like a ball of clear lake water flowing. However, the most real senses clearly told people that this was not a pool of water, but a flame. As the deep blue flame rose, the man's soul power suddenly increased significantly at this moment. Han Feng opened his eyes and laughed angrily. "The sea heart flame is here. Come and get it if you have the courage." The ball of flame flew out, and the scene that Han Feng expected to burn Gu Fei to death did not happen. Gu Fei stretched out his hand, and the sea heart flame stopped in front of him and could not move forward at all. Seeing this, Han Feng finally realized that he and everyone in the bamboo building could not defeat the strength of the person in front of him. Although Han Feng was unwilling, he had no choice but to stop attacking. Shaking his head helplessly, Han Feng had to take out the sea heart flame and give it to Gu Fei. Gu Fei was suddenly attacked by the strange fire just now, and his face did not change at all. He took the sea heart flame and turned away. Although Gu Fei could have killed Han Feng because he had just wanted to kill him, but Gu Fei thought that if someone asked for the most precious thing from him as soon as they met, he would also want to kill the other person. Therefore, Gu Fei did not kill Han Feng. Moreover, although Han Feng offended Yao and Xiao Yan, he did not need him to take revenge. After all, Han Feng's hatred with Yan and Yao had nothing to do with him. Gu Fei accepted the sea heart flame and felt relieved immediately. The Great Flame Heart Sutra he practiced was originally an ordinary fire attribute heaven level technique, but after using the emotion value to evolve once before, this technique mutated. Ordinary people can only refine one kind of strange fire in their lifetime. Strange fire is extremely violent. Even the leader of the Yan clan can only forcefully fuse two kinds of strange fire into a new strange fire. However, practicing this variation of the technique can enable Gu Fei to fuse 5 different kinds of strange fire. At this moment, Gu Fei focused on the sea heart flame and forced it to be contained in his body. Inadvertently, a wisp of powerful breath leaked out, and the terrifying pressure made Han Feng's face pale. Han Feng has an extreme fear emotion, and the emotion value increases by 30. Gu Fei's expression became a little happier. Han Feng's luck value is stronger than that of ordinary people, so the emotion value brought by his emotional fluctuations is also much higher than that of others. Chapter 14 Target, King Shan Town. Don't worry, I'm only here for the strange fire. I won't take your life. After a moment, Gu Fei opened his eyes and looked at Han Feng with sharp eyes. He lowered his voice, sounding hoarse and gloomy, and at the same time, Han Feng sensed that his connection with the sea heart flame was completely wiped out. This person is so terrifying that he wiped out the connection between me and the sea heart flame in a moment. Han Feng has fear and gratitude emotions, and the emotion value increases by 50, as Gu Fei expected. Han Feng, who occupies a lot of space in the original work, has very high luck. He provides dozens of emotions at a time, which makes Gu Fei more convinced that this move to the northwest continent is correct. After Gu Fei left, Han Feng felt like he had survived a disaster. After a long time, he was relieved to see Gu Fei really leave. Gu Fei, since he has obtained the sea heart flame, his next plan is to go to Black Seal City. He wants to search again. In fact, he didn't go to Black Seal City specifically, but just took a look along the way. Although it is not known whether the Demon Fire Remnant map has been obtained by Yuan of the 8 Gates, but Gu Fei will pass through Black Seal City on his way to the Jia Empire. It would be a good idea to ask. In the original novel, Yan went to the Black Horn region after the 3-year agreement and caught up with the auction of the 3rd Demon Fire Remnant map in Black Seal City. What if Yuan has already obtained the Demon Fire Remnant map? Gu Fei can get the Demon Fire Remnant map in advance. Fengcheng is quite far from Black Seal City. Gu Fei took a short rest after arriving in Black Seal City. Afterwards, he found out where the 8 gates were and concealed his own aura. No one stopped him along the way. It was like entering an unmanned place. Gu Fei closed his eyes and used his fighting spirit to sense the fluctuations around him. Within 5 miles, in the northwest direction, there is an extremely powerful person. That should be Yuan. Like a ghost, Gu Fei came directly to the secret room of the Gate Master Yuan. He was wearing a black robe, covering his face. Yuan was sipping tea at this time. He looked at him when he heard the noise, and he was very calm. With his status and strength, Yuan thought he didn't need to fear anyone. The black-robed man in front of him must have something to ask of him, otherwise he would have fought as soon as they met. Yuan Yi had seen many people like Gu Fei who broke through the barriers and defenses and appeared directly in the secret room. These strong men who didn't want to show their true faces concealed their own auras and came to him. They had something to ask of him, but it was inconvenient to reveal their identities. They were either looking for treasures, or killing people for treasures, or hiding from enemies. He had seen too many. Every time they raised the price, Yuan Yi could make a fortune. I just don't know what the person in front of him wanted. Then, Gu Fei, as Yuan Yi expected, directly stated his intention. Is there a fragment of the map? He stared at Yuan Yi with his deep eyes, and slowly threw out his conditions. I can exchange it for a 6th grade elixir. Yuan Yi has a pleasant emotion, and the emotion value increases by 5. Gu Fei heard the system's prompt sound and looked at him without changing his expression. Through the gap in the black robe, he clearly noticed that Yuan Yi paused for a moment while holding the cup, and then took a sip of tea as if nothing had happened. Then he turned his head and looked at him directly. His eyes were calm, hiding the ecstasy in his heart very well. A 6th grade elixir. This elixir can also cause a bloody storm in Black Seal City. Although the 6th grade elixir is not as good as the 7th grade elixir, it is also a rare item with extremely high value. Now, it is being traded by this black-robed man for a fragmented map. Moreover, judging from his appearance, he may have a lot of treasures in his hands. Yuan Yi's eyes turned and he had an idea. When Gu Fei mentioned the word fragmented map, Yuan Yi knew which one he was talking about. Logically speaking, ordinary fragmented maps are not worth this price. After all, although it is possible to find treasures in fragmented maps, they are always incomplete. It is more difficult to find treasures. But that fragmented map is different. It is a fragmented map that may find the demon fire. Yuan Yi thought for a moment and said, I don't have any incomplete map here. Yuan Yi has greedy emotions. Emotional value increased by 30. Gu Fei raised his eyebrows and immediately knew that Yuan Yi did have the incomplete map. Since he could feel greedy, it means that Yuan Yi obviously has the incomplete map, but wants to raise its price to get more benefits. Gu Fei twisted his fingertips and simply stopped restraining himself, showing his momentum directly. Yuan Yi was shocked. Yuan Yi has fear emotions. Emotional value increased by 10. The cup in his hand broke directly. His face turned pale, and his pupils were full of fear and terror, but greed still made him hesitate. Gu Fei shook his head and sighed that Yuan Yi was ignorant. He continued to release 8 points of momentum, and the whole secret room seemed to be crushed, not to mention Yuan Yi who was targeted. Yuan Yi has extreme fear emotions. Emotional value increased by 12. Under the pressure of the powerful momentum, Yuan Yi felt the crisis of death for the first time in a long time. His face was pale, and he couldn't move. He could only shout, I'll give it to you, I'll give it to you, spare my life. Although Gu Fei had no intention of killing, he was able to release the momentum and murderous intent that even the 8 Gates Master Yuan Yi was afraid of. He smiled slightly and restrained his momentum. Yuan Yi suddenly relaxed. He stood up to find the incomplete map for Gu Fei. Under Gu Fei's calm eyes, he trembled and offered it with both hands. Gu Fei put away the incomplete map and swaggered out. Along the way, he also gained Yuan Yi's scattered emotional values, mixed with fear and resentment. He didn't care, but calculated the time. Gu Fei guessed that Xiao Yan probably hasn't entered the Monster Mountain range to train yet. After all, with his current strength, going in would only be seeking death. Because Xiao Yan hasn't gone yet, the incomplete map in the cave should still be there. Anyway, a piece of the incomplete map has been obtained. Gu Fei simply plans to enter the Monster Mountain range and obtain a piece of the incomplete map in the 3 buildings. With his current strength, as long as he doesn't provoke those terrifying monsters entrenched in one area, he can walk sideways in the Monster Mountain range. There are still most of the resources in the ring, and Gu Fei doesn't need to stop to rest. He is eager to become stronger and urgently needs the demon fire. One incomplete map has been obtained, and the next one is another. When the incomplete map is collected, he can get the backup left by the Pure Lotus Demon Saint. In this way, when the demon fire comes out, Gu Fei can have the greatest advantage and finally get the demon fire. The Pure Lotus Demon Fire is the 3rd-ranked strange fire in the world. Its strength is comparable to that of the 7th Tard Sheng, second only to the void-devouring flame and the so-called Emperor Flame, which is ranked first on the strange fire list. With the demon fire, Gu's strength will be rapidly improved. Next, Gu Fei immediately set off and rushed to King Shan town on the edge of the Jiama Empire. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15. First encounter with the little medical fairy. King Shan Town, located in the northeastern province of the Jiama Empire, is almost next to the Warcraft Mountains. With Gu's speed, he arrived here in less than a week, and he also found time to refine the Sea Heart Flame. King Shan Town seems to be called the Warcraft Town. Gu looked at the bustling and lively town in front of him and whispered softly, King Shan Town is close to the Warcraft Mountains, so it should be a little dangerous. After all, in the minds of Warcraft, there is no distinction between human territories. King Shan Town is prosperous and lively, with many cultivation resources, and powerful Warcraft often come to plunder from time to time. But here are a group of mercenary groups headed by the three major mercenary groups, with more than 100 people. While accepting tasks, they also protect the peace of King Shan Town. Although a few mercenaries are not good people, most of them regard King Shan Town as a home, so they naturally protect it well. It is a good choice to come here for a stroll. Walking on the streets of King Shan Town, looking at the dazzling array of shops around, Gu touched his chin. He wandered aimlessly, and before long, he came to a medicine shop called Wanyaozhai. The medicine shop was gorgeously decorated, with a faint smell of medicine floating inside, and it looked very good. There were also several tall and burly mercenaries guarding the door of the shop, who should have been hired by the owner to act as guards. Although King Shan Town is generally in good order, there are also petty thieves, and these mercenaries are to deal with them. Gu looked around Wanyaozhai, sniffing the faint smell of medicine in the air, with a hint of joy on his face, found it. At the same time, a purple-haired girl walked in at the door of the shop. Her brisk footsteps came from far to near, and Gu looked back unconsciously. The woman was wearing a pale white dress. Although her appearance was not stunning, she could be said to be a rare beauty. Her indifferently smiling cheeks exuded a fresh and ethereal temperament. This unique temperament instantly increased the charm of the woman. The willow waist, which was less than a hand's length, was tied with a green belt. The waist was the most slender and delicate of any woman Gu had ever seen. At this time, Gu did not wear a black robe like he did in the Black Horn region, but changed into a young man's outfit early, handsome and unrestrained. Although he perfectly concealed his aura, his unique temperament was still very attractive. At a glance, the most eye-catching person in the entire medicine shop was Gu. Although his clothes were not very noble, and his aura also showed that his strength was not top-notch, he always had a unique charm that made people unable to help but look at him twice. The young man was tall and straight, and his upright figure made people know at a glance that he was a rich and noble young man from a noble family. He was definitely not like those vulgar mercenaries who were very active in King Shan Town and licked blood on the edge of a knife. "Young master, are you looking for medicinal materials?" The little medical fairy put on a faint smile and took the initiative to greet him and asked. She looked at Gu with a smile in her purple eyes, and her white hands were hidden between her sleeves. Even though Gu was not obsessed with beauty, his tone of voice could not help but soften. Gu had guessed that the purple-haired girl was Yixian through her ethereal temperament and elegant beauty, so he asked about the medicinal materials. "I need blood lotus essence and medicinal materials such as ice heart flame grass." Although Yixian was proficient in pharmacology and could cure diseases and save lives, she had been staying in this small King Shan town and her knowledge was really limited. The medicinal materials Gu mentioned were not common. When she heard it suddenly, Yixian did not know what blood lotus essence was for a while. Yixian has doubts, and her emotion value increases by 90. There was some shyness in her beautiful eyes, and she blushed a little for her short-sightedness. Gu heard the prompt sound of the system and understood it. He took the initiative to solve Yixian's doubts to avoid her embarrassment. This blood lotus essence is a medicinal material that is a few points more powerful than the coptis essence. She had heard of the coptis essence, but how much more powerful was this blood lotus essence than the coptis essence? Xiao Yan was stunned for a moment, then nodded and continued to listen to Gu Fei. Seeing Xiao Yan nodded, Gu Fei continued, "As soon as I stepped into the medicine shop, I smelled the scent of blood lotus essence, which was very strong." Seeing Xiao Yan still looked a little at a loss, Gu Fei didn't want to embarrass the beauty, so he took the initiative to walk towards the source of the smell. He took a few steps forward and carefully scanned the surroundings. Soon, Gu Fei found it in an inconspicuous corner of the medicine shop. Gu Fei picked up the blood lotus essence, walked over and put it in his palm for Xiao Yan to see. This is it. The blood lotus essence looked almost the same as the yellow lotus essence, but it was light red. Although it was only a small piece, the fragrance was strong. Xiao Yan took a light sniff and felt refreshed, and there was a little light in her eyes. Xiao Yan has admiration, and the emotion value is increased by 90, as expected. Looking at Gu Fei's rich knowledge of medicinal materials and his unique keen perception, Xiao Yan couldn't help but feel a little admiration for this handsome young man. King Shan town is not big, and Xiao Yan has not met many rich young men, but those young men would come to her place to treat patients and save people every now and then to disturb her, saying that they would marry her with a large sum of money. Xiao Yan was naturally annoyed, but she was soft-hearted and couldn't say anything harsh. She had to ignore it, but she hated those young men who were uneducated and unskilled. At present, although Gu Fei's dress was a little more ordinary than those young men, his strength was much stronger than those people. Xiao Yan's eyes flashed with tiny lights, and she looked at Gu Fei with admiration. "Young master, are you a pharmacist?" Xiao Yan asked subconsciously. After all, the unique perception of medicinal materials and the rich knowledge reserves are essential skills for a pharmacist. Yes. There was no need for Gu Fei to hide this. He nodded and replied. Xiao Yan smiled in surprise. "Young master is indeed a pharmacist." Xiao Yan has admiration, and her emotion value increases by 100. Xiao Yan sighed, her eyes brighter. She was quite excited, and a faint pink appeared on her face. Xiao Yan has excitement, and her emotion value increases by 80. Everyone in King Shan town knows that the famous Xiao Yan has always dreamed of becoming a pharmacist. Her gentle and kind personality makes many people like to come to Xiao Yan for treatment when they are injured, and she is also very good at curing diseases and saving lives. Therefore, she has the reputation of Xiao Yan. Every time a powerful pharmacist comes to King Shan town, Xiao Yan will ask for advice, but her attributes are not suitable for being a pharmacist, so Xiao Yan has to settle for the second best and become a doctor who saves people and heals the wounded. Doctors can only refine things like medicine powder, but cannot refine pills with powerful effects. Chapter 16 The Worship of the Little Medical Fairy. Gu Fei did not waste time when he was strolling on the street before. He also found out some things he wanted to know in the tea house. Most of the mercenaries were very enthusiastic. Gu Fei just started a conversation, and they continued one by one. Gu Fei sipped tea lightly on the side, and he had already mastered everything he wanted to know. He raised a smile and said that he would treat everyone to tea, and it was really hard to protect King Shan town. Those mercenaries were even more moved, and some information was revealed as if it was free. Yuan felt moved, and the emotion value increased by 0.1. Yu Kang felt grateful, and the emotion value increased by 0.1. Although Gu Fei did not care about these mosquito leg-sized emotion values, but the information obtained from them was precious. At the moment, this piece of blood lotus essence further strengthened his judgment. The blood lotus essence has not been taken away by Xiao Yan and is still in Wanyao's High. All this added up to show that Xiao Yan has not yet reached the Warcraft mountain range. Gu Fei was still thinking about where Xiao Yan might be, but at this moment, Xiao Yan spoke again, her voice soft and clear. "Sir, if you don't mind, you can go to the Magic Beast mountain range with us to collect herbs in 3 days." She was a little shy, but she really wanted to invite this alchemist who made her feel very reliable, so she racked her brains and continued. "Well, there are a lot of medicinal herbs there. The herbs you want are not available in Wanyao's High, but the Magic Beast mountain range must have the herbs you need." Gu Fei pondered for a moment, and slowly nodded in Xiaoyan's anxious eyes. "Okay," he agreed, and Xiaoyan's eyes were full of joy. Xiaoyan has a happy emotion, and the emotion value increases by 100. There are many very powerful magic beasts in the Magic Beast mountain range. On weekdays, they were fine when collecting herbs in the outer periphery, but once they mistakenly entered the inner part and were almost wiped out by the terrifying magic beast. Although Guf's fighting spirit did not seem to be strong, Xiaoyan inexplicably thought that the strength of the young man in front of him was not comparable to those mercenaries. So at the invitation of Xiaoyan, Guf lived in the manor of Wanyao's High. Xiaoyan took Guf to meet Boss Yao, and she directly introduced Guf's identity as a pharmacist to Boss Yao. Boss Yao was very polite to such a strange young man. After all, Guf looked very young. Alchemists must rely on extraordinary talents and many cultivation resources to support them in order to achieve something. And such a young and extraordinary alchemist must have an extraordinary background. Although Boss Yao could not judge his cultivation at first glance, he also felt the unique temperament of this person. What's more, Xiaoyan treated him with great respect, which was obviously true. Boss Yao thought deeply in his heart that if he could curry favor with this alchemist, he might have a good opportunity. Facing Boss Yao's careful eyes, Guf was not polite. "I'm in a hurry, so I won't wait until 3 days later. I want to set off tomorrow," Guf said with a smile. He quietly revealed a little bit of his cultivation. The next second, Boss Yao's eyes suddenly changed, as if he had seen a peerless beast. Boss Yao has a fearful emotion. Emotional value increased by 10. He felt that the aura of the young man in front of him was several times more terrifying than the third-level monsters he had faced before. The huge sense of oppression made Boss Yao unconsciously afraid. So, his original intention to take Qiao was extinguished. Boss Yao agreed to Guf very respectfully, and the next day he asked the medical team to go into the mountains to collect herbs. He couldn't afford to offend such a terrifying person. After the explanation, Gu followed Xiaoyan to the small courtyard where he lived leisurely, without revealing any cultivation aura. The dinner that day was personally delivered to the small courtyard where Gu lived by Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan's purpose was also very simple, that is, she wanted to take advantage of the rare opportunity to meet a powerful alchemist to consult more about pharmacology. Such a powerful alchemist must have a wealth of knowledge in pharmacology. She came in with dinner. The purple-haired beauty under the moonlight added a bit of charm. The faint moonlight sprinkled, and the little medical fairy was beautiful. The purple eyes stared at Guf. Guf was not stingy with such a studious beauty. The little medical fairy also brought a few of her medical books, which were full of her beautiful handwriting. The books were flipped so frequently that the corners of the edges were curled, but the little medical fairy took good care of them. Except for some light yellowing, there were no other signs of damage. She did not disturb Guf, but sat aside and waited quietly for Guf to finish eating. Guf looked very elegant when eating. The little medical fairy stared at him and was unconsciously lost in thought. When she came back to her senses, the little medical fairy's face was flushed and her eyes were erratic. Xiaoyan feels shy, and her emotion value increases by 100. Guf suddenly received a system prompt, and he couldn't help but look at Xiaoyan with some confusion, and saw Xiaoyan's beautiful eyes full of spring. Xiaoyan saw Guf looking at her, and after looking at him, she hurriedly shifted her gaze. He scratched his head unconsciously, not understanding what Xiaoyan was thinking. After finishing dinner, Xiaoyan came over to help him clean up the dishes. She had slender hands, lowered her eyelids, and her cheeks glowed with a faint and moist light under the moonlight. The scene in front of him was so beautiful that Guf couldn't bear to disturb her. After cleaning up, Xiaoyan hesitated, picked up the medical books and walked to Guf. In the past, Xiaoyan thought that if she met an alchemist who was willing to teach her, she would just ask openly. But this time, for some reason, facing the young master Guf, Xiaoyan actually felt a little shy, like a little girl. Little medical fairy feels shy. Emotional value increases by 80. Guf saw that she couldn't move for a long time, so he took the initiative to stand up and take her medical book, causing her to pause. He turned to the side where little medical fairy carefully put a bookmark. Seeing her beautiful handwriting, Guf's mouth curled up. "Is there a problem here?"
Goof asked lightly without looking at Little Medical Fairy. Little Medical Fairy lowered her head and responded sullenly, "This kind of medicinal material and ebony seeds cannot be taken at the same time. The patient's side effects will be more intense, and severe cases will cause rejection reactions." Before, Goof was generous with his advice. After a few words, Little Medical Fairy's eyes became more and more serious, and she kept nodding. Goof's few words made her feel that she benefited a lot. Little Medical Fairy feels admiration. Emotional value increases by 90. She raised her head and quietly looked at Goof's profile. Goof was explaining pharmacology seriously, with a very serious look in his eyes. Little Medical Fairy has admiration. Emotion value increased by 100. After receiving the prompt sound from the system, Goof curled his lips calmly, and then continued to explain seriously. Under the moonlight, the figures of the two overlapped, looking very beautiful. Chapter 17. Joining hands in the Warcraft Mountains. Little Dr. Fairy's panic. The next morning, Wan Yaozhai recruited mercenaries in King Shan Town early in the morning to go up the mountain together. Wan Yaozhai has never been stingy with this kind of treatment. They promised a lot of good things, including treating mercenaries. Therefore, many mercenaries came to sign up. Boss Yao hesitated for a moment, took a step back and looked at Goof. "Why don't you choose the mercenaries?" Goof looked at him with a smile and shook his head. Boss Yao had to choose people according to the usual rules, and he looked at Goof's face tremblingly while choosing. It was really that Goof's terrifying momentum yesterday left a deep impression on him. Thinking back to yesterday, Boss Yao twitched all over. "Are you satisfied with these mercenaries?" Boss Yao felt panic, and his emotion value increased by 10. Goof responded lightly, and the matter of recruiting mercenaries was over. Wan Yaozhai had a lot of things to do during the day, so Boss Yao did not go to see them off. Xiao Yan followed behind Goof, followed by a large group of mercenaries. Among the mercenaries who went to the Warcraft mountain range with Goof, there was also the Wolfhead mercenary group, just like in the original novel. Moreover, the Wolfhead mercenary group was the strongest among the three major mercenary groups in the entire King Shan town. Therefore, they were also the main force of this group of mercenaries. However, Goof narrowed his eyes, turned back and casually glanced at the leader of the Wolfhead mercenary group, who was walking at the end, with his head down and an unclear expression. That was the young leader Mu Li. He had ulterior motives. The Little Medical Fairy introduced Goof to everyone, and when she told everyone about Goof's identity as an alchemist, a group of mercenaries looked at him with respect and yearning. Yuan has a respectful emotion, and the emotion value increases by 0.1. Qin Zheng has an admiring emotion, and the emotion value increases by 0.1. Most of these mercenaries who lived on the edge of a knife also imagined that they were also legendary alchemists who could stir up a storm. But most of them had to choose the path of being mercenaries due to their talent and poverty. In front of them, a young alchemist appeared in front of them, and they naturally yearned for him. However, Goof frowned slightly. Mu Li is worried. Emotional value increases by 10. In an instant, Goof looked up at a tall and burly mercenary. The mercenary was the leader of the Wolfhead mercenary group and their young leader. Goof remembered his name, Mu Li. He was also the Mu Li who wanted to plot against Xiao Yan and Xiao Yan for profit in the original book. Goof didn't believe that such a vicious person would worry about the safety of a weak alchemist like him. Calculating the time, at this time in the original book, the person who entered the Monster Mountain range with Xiao Yan should be Xiao Yan. Goof thought about it and suddenly realized it. At the beginning, Xiao Yan was just a person of average strength, so Mu Li was of course unscrupulous. But now that he, the alchemist, has taken over, Mu Li wouldn't think that he was in the way and delayed his plan this time. Therefore, the original order should be that the strongest Wolfhead mercenary group would take the lead, and Goof and Xiao Yan would walk in the middle of the safest team. However, Goof walked in the front from the beginning, and Mu Li also acquiesced to this behavior that was simply to commit suicide, and even secretly gave the entire mercenary group a death order. Not to remind Goof, but he was entrusted by Boss Yao to take on the task of escorting Goof and Xiao Yan, and he had to pretend when he encountered the monsters. What's more, Mu Li was so angry with Goof,
When the first wave of monsters suddenly attacked, Mu Li deliberately slowed down the attack speed, thinking that he would wait for the attacks of those monsters to fall on Gu Fei before attacking. But he didn't expect that this man pretended to be full of courage when he went up the mountain at the beginning. But when the monsters attacked, he took Xiao Yan and hid behind him. The first time, Mu Li thought it was an accident, but several times later, Gu Fei suddenly grabbed Xiao Yan and rushed behind him while walking, and fierce attacks followed one after another. Mu Li has anger, and the emotion value increases by 10. Seeing Mu Li's rather embarrassed way of dealing with it, Gu Fei's mouth curled up. Since he wants to plot against him, let's see if Mu Li can withstand the gift he gave her. Xiao Yan followed Gu Fei obediently, her eyes alert and vigilant. She did not comment on Gu Fei's playful behavior. Along the way, they eliminated several waves of monster attacks, and the team finally came to a place where medicinal herbs gathered in the monster mountain range. Xiao Yan is excited, and her mood value is increased by 80. Xiao Yan's eyes were bright and she looked very happy. Gu Fei laughed out loud. This girl is very obsessed with medicinal herbs. In her eyes, treasures worth thousands of gold are probably not as rich as the place with rich medicinal herbs in front of her. Xiao Yan hurriedly told everyone a few words, asking everyone to rest on the spot first, and then go to mine medicinal herbs after resting. Gu Fei did not say anything, but leaned against the tree with his arms folded, and looked at her quietly. The place he chose was very clever. This position can not only see the place where medicinal herbs are collected, but also have a panoramic view of the whereabouts of almost all mercenaries. This also includes Mu Li, who obviously became interested after hearing Xiao Yan's words. Mu Li has malicious emotions. Emotional value increased by 10. Xiao Yan looked at Gu Fei hesitantly, and then walked over. I'll go and see if there are any herbs that the pharmacy needs to replenish. You can come down by yourself when you have rested enough. The herbs here are very rich, and there are many herbs that I can't even name. I hope there will be some that you need. She looked up at Gu Fei, then waved goodbye with a smile. Gu Fei stood there and watched Xiao Yan leave the tent alone and go to the surrounding dense forest. She didn't know that the next moment, Mu Li, who had been pretending to be doing nothing, got up and quietly followed her. Gu Fei frowned and thought about it. He knew that Mu Li had ill intentions, and was worried that Xiao Yan couldn't beat him. So, Gu Fei chose to follow behind Mu Li and followed quietly. Gu Fei himself was a good hand at concealing his breath, not to mention that Mu Li's strength was not as good as his at all. After following him all the way, Mu Li didn't find any clues. After passing through the dense forest, a cliff appeared in Gu Fei's sight. Mu Li was hiding in the dark and spying on Xiao Yan. Gu Fei was behind Mu Li, and Xiao Yan had just climbed up from the bottom of the cliff with difficulty. Mu Li, why are you sneaking behind Xiao Yan? Seeing the malicious look in Mu Li's eyes, Gu Fei took the initiative. He shouted loudly in the direction of Mu Li not far away with his fighting spirit attached to his voice. What? Hearing this, Mu Li panicked and turned his head suddenly. He didn't expect that someone would follow him, and he didn't notice it at all. Xiao Yan, who was walking in the front, also had a pale face at this moment. She was a little panicked. She didn't expect that Mu Li, the young leader of the Wolf-Head mercenary group, would secretly follow her. Chapter 18. Xiao Yan is my friend. I will take care of this matter. Xiao Yan's pretty face was pale. She looked at Mu Li with a little panic at first, and then cast her purple eyes at Gu Fei. Her eyes were full of surprise and a little bit of panic. Xiao Yan is panicking. Emotional value increases by 100. She stopped there, quite at a loss. Suddenly two people appeared in succession, and Xiao Yan didn't know what to do. After all, Gu Fei gave her a more reliable feeling. Xiao Yan looked at him helplessly, as if she hoped that Gu Fei could give an explanation. Otherwise, why did two people suddenly appear behind her? Xiao Yan, just now I saw this person sneaking behind you, and I was worried that this person had some bad intentions, so I followed him. Gu Fei naturally wouldn't feel guilty. After all, he didn't do anything shameful, but took the initiative to put a hat of ill intentions on Mu Li. Mu Li is angry. Emotional value increases by 10. Mu Li, who was trying to quibble, glared at Gu Fei in shock and anger. But he didn't dare to dare his face with Gu Fei now. After all, Mu Li is not a fool to be the young leader of the Wolf-Head mercenary group. Of course, He could see the clues from the previous selection of mercenaries by Boss Yao. This alchemist is probably not simple. Moreover, he has been a mercenary for many years, and the most basic and necessary skill is to be alert at all times. Although he just focused all his attention on following Xiao Yan, it is his body's instinct to stay alert. If Gu Fei really followed him all the way, he would not have failed to notice. Therefore, this shows that Gu Fei is either very powerful or has a very powerful way to conceal his breath. Therefore, he could only glare at Gu Fei angrily, but did not dare to attack immediately. Xiao Yan was full of trust in Gu Fei. After all, how could such a powerful alchemist deceive her? Xiao Yan has a grateful emotion, and the emotion value increases by 100. She was full of gratitude to Gu Fei, and at the same time, she was more wary of Mu Li. Mu Li suddenly followed her for no reason, and did not want to be discovered by her. Could it be that her secret was exposed? Xiao Yan shook her head. She hid so well that no one around could find out. How could a mere Mu Li know about it? In order to confirm her guess, Xiao Yan was unwilling to keep quiet and pretend that it had never happened. Mu Li, why did you follow me? Xiao Yan looked at Mu Li and asked loudly. The forest was airtight and oppressive. The sun could not penetrate. Xiao Yan could not see the expression on Mu Li's face. He laughed sinisterly and said slowly, "Haha, I'll tell you straight. There should be a treasure underneath." He saw that Xiao Yan was not giving up. Since things had come to this, Mu Li simply stopped pretending and told the situation directly. Xiao Yan's body shook, very incredible, with obvious shock and confusion in her beautiful eyes. I only told my assistant Leaf about this. Her beautiful purple eyes were then filled with anger and sadness of being betrayed. You bribed her? Even someone as gentle and kind as Xiao Yan was not completely without temper. Leaf was not only her friend, but she had also long regarded her as a close friend. Xiao Yan had shared many thoughts and secrets with Leaf, but she did not expect that Mu Li knew things that only heaven and earth knew. She knew, and Leaf knew. Who else could it be except Leaf? Mu Li laughed a few times and nodded in agreement. He liked to see the surprised and angry looks of those people after they learned that they were betrayed by their best friend. Xiao Yan's emotions fluctuated too much, and her own talent and strength did not lie in fighting, so there was no need to be afraid. As for the remaining one, Mu Li turned his head and looked at Gu Fei. He smiled and said, "Sir, why don't you explore the treasure with my wolf-head mercenary group?" He stared at Gu Fei's still calm face, and said meaningfully, "Word by word, when the time comes, the treasure will be divided into 5, 5, and 5. If it were anyone who came out with Xiao Yan, whether it was the alchemist or the servant of Wan Yaozhai, or even Boss Yao, I'm afraid they would agree without hesitation. After all, this is a great opportunity to cooperate with the strongest mercenary group in King Shantown to share the treasure, and Mu Li is willing to make concessions. According to his personality, it would be good if he didn't kill the person and take it all for himself. At this time, he is willing to give half to Gu Fei, which is simply a pie in the sky. Mu Li picked his ear slowly and blew gently on his fingertips. What do you think? Facing Mu Li's invitation, Gu Fei pretended to be moved at first. He deliberately showed a hesitant look, and sure enough, he saw Mu Li's unconscious grin. Mu Li has a proud emotion, and the emotion value increases by 10. Gu Fei raised his eyebrows. I'm afraid it's a trick. He doesn't believe that Mu Li is such a generous person. He's afraid that after they cooperated to get the treasure, Mu Li killed him and threw his body downstairs, and he came up alone. Facing Mu Li's invitation and his extremely confident eyes, Gu Fei pretended to nod and agree. But at the moment when Mu Li's mouth was about to rise and fly out of his cheek, his face changed. He refused decisively. A person like you is worthy of cooperating with me? Mu Li feels angry, and his emotion value increases by 10. What did you say? Mu Li's eyes were burning with anger, and he began to move his body, with the sound of bones rubbing from time to time. Seeing Gu Fei's resolute attitude, Xiao Yan stared at him without blinking, with very complicated emotions. Xiao Yan feels touched, and his emotion value increases by 80. Xiao Yan feels dependent, and his emotion value increases by 80. Seeing that Gu Fei was unwilling to cooperate, Mu Li was too lazy to waste time. He smiled grimly, revealing his real dirty face, Since you're unwilling to cooperate, please don't stop me. His gloomy eyes fell on Xiao Yan, with a hint of murderous intent. But he was caught off guard by Gu Fei's words that were out of touch with the times. Xiao Yan is my friend. I will take care of this matter, Gu Fei said. Xiao Yan feels touched, and his emotion value increases by 80. Mu Li looked at him in surprise, wondering if this kid was really afraid of death or pretending to be afraid of death. He simply stopped talking nonsense and threatened Gu Fei directly, and his hands also moved. In this case, don't blame me. Even if you have a strong background, if you die quietly in the Monster Mountain range, no one will suspect my wolf-head mercenary group. A dark light flashed in Mu Li's eyes. He looked at Gu Fei, who didn't know whether to live or die quietly, and he had a murderous intention in his heart. Gu Fei was not in a hurry to leave. After all, with his current strength, not to mention that the entire King Shan town might not be able to find an opponent, even the entire Jiama Empire might not. Xiao Yan had already hidden behind him. He stood in front of Xiao Yan. His tall figure seemed to help her resist all harm. Xiao Yan couldn't help but feel a little dazed. Under Mu Li's gloomy gaze, after a while, more than a dozen mercenaries emerged from the dense forest, and Gu Fei had already discovered these. Chapter 19 Little Medical Fairy, Brother Gu Fei, please help me. Gu Fei didn't even look at the dozen or so mercenaries. Even if they attacked together, they would not pose any threat to him. The same was true for Mu Li. Mu Li feels resentful, and his emotion value increases by 15. He stared at Gu Fei with murderous intent in his eyes. Since he was unwilling to cooperate with the wolf-head mercenary group, there was no need to stay. Even if Gu Fei was very powerful, so what? He didn't believe that a group of people here couldn't kill an alchemist. Gu Fei certainly sensed Mu Li's murderous intent towards him. In this case, he would naturally not show mercy. Gu Fei's eyes were filled with contempt, and he raised his palm lightly, and a stream of energy was shot out. The airflow was weak but incredibly fast. When it penetrated Mu Li's chest, he still had a gloomy face and didn't react. The next moment, Mu Li's chest was instantly pierced. He didn't even change his expression, and fell straight to the ground, obviously deader than dead. The other mercenaries were originally aggressive, but seeing this, most of them were so scared that their legs and feet became weak. Lin Yi feels fear. Emotion value increases by 0.2. Mu Huan feels fear. Emotion value increases by 0.1. They stood there in a daze, not even having the courage to run away. After all, the strength Gu Fei just showed was too terrifying. With that light move, even the young leader with the strength of a 7-star fighter was killed instantly. Mu Li is a top-ranked strong man in the entire wolf-head mercenary group, and even in the entire King Shan town. Many of a dozen of them are not even fighters. How can they resist? Xiao Yan feels shocked. Emotion value increases by 100. Xiao Yan was also shocked by Gu Fei's strength. She stayed in a small place like King Shan town. Where had she seen such a powerful strong man? Xiao Yan would not be afraid of Gu Fei just because he killed Mu Li with one blow. After all, it was Mu Li who wanted to kill them first. She covered her chest and felt a little scared. Xiao Yan feels lucky. Emotion value increases by 90. If Gu Fei hadn't been there today, either she would have exposed the secret or she would have died here. Some mercenaries, seeing that they could not defeat such a terrifying strong man, thought of using the leader of the wolf-head mercenary group to suppress Mu Li. You killed the young leader today. If you dare to kill us, the leader will definitely not let you go, a mercenary said fiercely, but he felt a little guilty. Yuan Chong feels guilty, and his emotion value increases by 1. This man is so powerful, I don't know if the leader can kill him. Yes, our leader is a 2-star fighting master. I'm afraid you won't even have time to beg for mercy by then. Qin Zheng feels proud, and his emotion value increases by 1. Gu Fei looked disdainful. 2-star fighting master? He thought he was so powerful. Gu Fei was also ruthless to these mercenaries. He was too lazy to kill people, and he quickly attacked. More than a dozen powerful attacks flew flexibly in the forest. The cultivation of these dozen mercenaries was so easily destroyed, and they all became ordinary people. Xiao Yan feels shocked, and her emotion value increases by 100. Xiao Yan's beautiful eyes were full of shock. Guf's methods were very fierce. It was the first time she had seen such a scene. But after being shocked, Xiao Yan did not think that Guf did anything wrong in completely abolishing the cultivation of more than a dozen people. After all, this is the law of this world. A group of weak people wanted to kill the strong, and the strong did not kill them all, which was already merciful. Isn't it scary? Guf said with a smile, looking very relaxed and comfortable. No. Xiao Yan shook her head gently, with a strange light flashing in her beautiful eyes. Guf then came to the edge of the cliff and looked down with a look of appreciation. This cliff is full of strange trees, which is quite clever. It seems that there are caves left by ancestors here. You have this opportunity. Not bad, he whispered, but there was no greed in his eyes. Xiao Yan was stunned. She actually wanted to give Guf half of the treasure, but after hearing what Guf said, Xiao Yan could think that with Guf's identity, he might not bother to rob the treasure here. Xiao Yan knew that after what happened today, the secret of this place would definitely spread. Such treasures would definitely attract a group of treasure hunters. If they were not taken today, there would be no chance later. Xiao Yan was hesitant, and her emotion value increased by 80. Guf's eyes moved and he took the initiative to ask, "Is there anything I can help you with?" So Xiao Yan hesitated for a moment, and still said, "Young master, can I ask you to do me a favor?" She looked a little uneasy, wondering if she would trouble Guf too much. Guf smiled faintly and nodded. Xiao Yan was usually shy and soft, and rarely asked others for help. Now it also showed that she really trusted Guf. "Can you help me take out the treasures below?" "Of course, if there are any that you like, you can pick them, and leave the rest to me." Although her heart was bleeding, if there was no Guf today, she would not have been able to get the treasure under the cliff. Xiao Yan was naturally grateful to Guf, and was willing to let him pick the best treasure first. Okay. Although Guf did not want the treasure at the bottom of the cliff, he did not refuse Xiao Yan, but nodded in agreement. A woman like Xiao Yan is most afraid of owing favors to others. As expected, Xiao Yan curved her eyes and her voice became a little lighter. Xiao Yan has a feeling of excitement, and her emotion value increases by 80. "Sir, wait for me to tie the rope, and we will go down together." Next, Xiao Yan took out a bundle of ropes and planned to hang down. Although it is a bit troublesome, it is safer. Xiao Yan had always hung on the rope when she came down before. Guf interrupted her behavior. "No need to be so troublesome. I naturally have a more convenient way." Guf shook his head, and got a curious look from Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan has a curious emotion, and her emotion value increases by 80. This cliff is very steep. Without relying on ropes, what can Guf do? Guf smiled faintly, and a pair of red wings suddenly spread out from his back. As the wings fluttered, he whispered an insult to Xiao Yan, then hugged Xiao Yan's slender waist and flew down the cliff. Xiao Yan is shocked, and her emotion value increases by 100. Xiao Yan was stunned when she suddenly saw the pair of red wings that covered the sky. Seeing that Guf could actually fly with these red wings, Xiao Yan was even more shocked. Xiao Yan is shocked, and her emotion value increases by 100. Isn't this an ability that only Dwang strongmen can master? How could the ability to fly in the air appear in the pharmacist who is too young like Guf? This situation even made Xiao Yan ignore the embarrassment of being hugged by a man. Chapter 20. Do you really want nothing? After the shock, Xiao Yan felt the hand on her waist, and her face turned red. Xiao Yan is shy. Emotional value increased by 100. She clenched the hem of her clothes with her fingers. Her eyes were a little erratic, and her cheeks and ears were red. After all, this was the first time that Xiao Yan had such close contact with a man. In the past, when faced with the pursuit of those people, although she was gentle, she always avoided them. In her eyes, those people were not as important as a medicinal herb. But when it came to Guf, Xiao Yan patted her cheeks and shook off the random thoughts in her mind. Guf glanced at her, and the corners of his mouth unconsciously curled up slightly. Next, Guf and Xiao Yan descended to the middle of the cliff. Just as they were about to get close to the ground, suddenly, a rock snake rushed out quickly. Its cold snake tongue spit out, and the tip of its tail hooked up, as if it would swallow the two of them in one bite in the next second. Although Xiao Yan was not afraid of snakes, she would be a little frightened when she was suddenly frightened by a snake while picking herbs. But this time, The feeling she had was different from the past. Now Yixian developed emotions of dependence and trust. Emotional value increased by 100. Now Yixian snuggled up to Gu Fei, not afraid. She leaned against his slender body, feeling very at ease, because Yixian knew that with Gu Fei around, there would be no danger. Although he was not as tall and burly as those mercenaries, he would never fall down. After Gu Fei easily dealt with the rock snake, he finally saw an inconspicuous platform extending from the bottom of the cliff. He tapped his toes lightly, floating on the platform, and looked around. It was very messy here, and usually no one came here, so they had nowhere to stay. Gu Fei thought for a moment, raised his palm, and sent out a strong wind. His strength was controlled extremely perfectly, and he only moved away the surrounding broken branches and leaves without causing any other damage. Gu Fei landed with Yixian, and after he let go of his hand, the warm feeling faded, and Yixian felt a little empty in her heart. Now Yixian feels lost. Emotional value increases by 100. She came back to her senses, remembering that she was actually lingering on Gu Fei's hand around her waist, and her face turned red. Soon, she looked around seriously, confirmed her destination, stepped forward, and turned back to shout, "Young master, this way." Soon, they arrived at the entrance of a cave. It was a sunny day, and the surroundings were very hot, but the cave in front of them was filled with a gloomy atmosphere. Next, Gu Fei took the lead in walking into the cave. The cave was quiet and dark, almost to the point where you couldn't see your hand in front of you. The two walked in it. Gu Fei had a calm face and steady steps, but Yixian's face became paler. The faint chill in the cave lingered around her body, and Yixian shrank a little, feeling goosebumps all over her body. Gu felt that it was okay, because he was protected by fighting spirit, so he could naturally regulate his body temperature and was not afraid of the cold. In the quiet passage, only the subtle footsteps of two people echoed one by one. Yixian was not very brave, and she was inevitably a little scared in this somewhat claustrophobic environment. Fortunately, Gu Fei was with her, and Yixian secretly breathed a sigh of relief, following Gu Fei all the way, not daring to fall behind. They had been walking for a long time, and the cave seemed to have no end. Yixian's feet were a little sore, but she gritted her teeth and refused to speak. Bang! Suddenly, Gu Fei in front of her stopped abruptly. Yixian was in a daze, and she didn't notice it for a moment. Out of inertia, she bumped into Gu Fei's back, and the two of them actually came into close contact. "I'm sorry, sir, I didn't know you were going to stop suddenly." "I'm really sorry, I didn't notice it just now." Yixian is panicking. Emotional value plus 100. Yixian didn't know why her heart was beating fast. She felt her face was burning, her face was panicking, and she apologized to Gu Fei in a confused tone. There was a subtle cry in her voice, and Gu Fei could tell it at once. Yixian was obviously hurt by the collision, but she was still apologizing to him. Gu Fei smiled helplessly. "It's okay, I didn't notice you were following me closely." Hearing this, Yixian's heart beat faster, which was completely different from the popular and calm Yixian in King Shan Town. The next moment, Yixian looked around and understood why Gu Fei stopped suddenly. It turned out that the road ahead was blocked by a stone gate. Stone gates like this will have mechanisms set up. "I'll go find it," Yixian said tentatively. "No need to bother." Gu Fei shook his head and hit out with a palm. The heavy-looking stone gate in front of him shattered. Yixian unconsciously avoided the broken stones, but was surprised to see that under Gu Fei's control, the broken stones did not splash towards the two of them at all. Yixian has admiration emotions, and the emotion value increases by 100. The young master is really too strong. The control of fighting spirit has reached the level of perfection. Yixian sighed in her heart. Next, the two went deep into the cave to get treasures. They saw 3 boxes along the way. Because the remaining map of the demon fire was with the skeleton, Yixian did not dare to go over, so Gu Fei went over there to get the key. While he was doing it, he also secretly took out the remaining map of the demon fire hidden in the skeleton's arm and put it into the ring. Gu Fei did not intend to tell her about this thing. Even if he did, it would be useless. Yixian could not touch that kind of thing. Knowing more would not be good for her. Next, they opened the treasure chests one by one, and inside were the 7 colored poison sutra. the flying fighting skills, and a volume of Yuan-level advanced fighting skills. Zhao Yixian's eyes lit up, and she was almost blinded by these treasures. Zhao Yixian has a feeling of surprise, and the emotion value increases by 100. Gu Fei glanced at them and didn't want any of them, with his current cultivation. Unless he has a high level or higher flying fighting skill, it is useless to him. Sir, don't you want anything? Zhao Yixian feels guilty. Emotional value increases by 100. Seeing that Gu Fei gave her all the things in the 3 treasure chests, Zhao Yixian couldn't help but feel a little guilty. She asked someone for help, but didn't give him any benefits. However, it is possible that Gu Fei really doesn't like these things. Gu Fei couldn't bear to see the beauty frowning, so he had to cast his eyes on a pile of wild medicinal herbs not far away. There are several good medicinal herbs over there. Just consider it as your reward for inviting me down the cave this time. Gu Fei pointed to the medicinal herbs growing in the cave and said with a smile, "Okay, sir, wait, I'll go pick them for you." Hearing this, Zhao Yixian smiled, then took out the tools and concentrated on collecting medicinal herbs. Gu Fei looked at Zhao Yixian's serious work, his eyes showing some appreciation. Although this woman, in terms of pure beauty, is not as beautiful as Xun'er, she also has an extremely special temperament. Chapter 21. Love is brewing. Yan arrives. Zhao Yixian was lowering her eyelids and picking herbs carefully. Her long hair fell on her side. She looked very beautiful with a serious look, but such a simple girl. Gu Fei closed his eyes. He knew that Zhao Yixian had the physique of the evil poison body. At present, Zhao Yixian didn't know about this for the time being. The 7-colored poison scripture she just obtained recorded some descriptions of this physique. When Zhao Yixian finished this matter and read the 7-colored poison scripture, she would know about it. The evil poison body is feared by countless people throughout the ages, but also yearned for by many people who want to take the evil path, because these people, almost without cultivation, can quickly improve their cultivation by swallowing poison. However, poison is poison after all. While the cultivation is rapidly improved, it will also damage one's own body. Moreover, this process of improving cultivation is also full of pain. Moreover, the evil poison body will erupt from time to time. When it erupts, if a person cannot bear it and becomes a slave of the evil poison body, he will lose his mind and kill people until he loses his life. Therefore, many people who have been immersed in the evil poison body eventually end up killing people close to them and committing suicide in pain. The evil poison body chose Zhao Yixian, and this is Zhao Yixian's fate. Her evil poison body has not been unsealed yet, so of course she can pretend that nothing happened, pretend not to notice everything today, return to King Shan Town to live a plain but happy life, and live an ordinary life. Of course, you can also unseal and face the unknown side under the desire for power. Gu Fei will not interfere with her choice too much. How to choose, whether to activate or not activate this physique, is up to Zhao Yixian to decide. Moreover, although the evil poison body is terrifying, it is not completely impossible to save it. At least, Gu Fei remembered that in the original book, Yao Lao had a way, and he saved Zhao Yixian's life with this method. He remembered that he used the poison pill method to eliminate the hidden dangers of the evil poison body. The evil poison body had no side effects, leaving only the positive strength. Gu Fei was leaning against the edge of the cave, thinking with his eyes downcast, but was awakened by the brisk voice of the little medical fairy. "Sir, these medicinal herbs have been collected, give them to you." While Gu Fei was thinking, the little medical fairy had happily come over with a pile of medicinal herbs. Her eyes were sparkling, and a few drops of crystal sweat oozed out of her forehead because of collecting herbs. The purple hair was soaked by sweat, sticky on the neck and cheeks of the little medical fairy. The girl was as gentle as a lotus emerging from the water, and her beauty added a bit of charm. Gu Fei raised the corner of his mouth, put all the medicinal herbs into the storage ring, and did not refuse again. "Well, let's go back to the herb collecting team. We've been out for too long, and I'm afraid someone will get suspicious." Zhao Yixian remembered that she and Gu Fei had been out for too long, and Muli's group of wolf-head mercenaries had also disappeared for a long time. If they didn't show up again, they might suspect her and Gu Fei, so she said quickly. Gu Fei nodded, then walked behind Zhao Yixian, with her leading the way, and the two of them left the cave one after the other. They reached the platform at the bottom of the cliff. This time, Gu Fei still directly hugged Xiao Yan's slender waist and flew up. He was very gentlemanly, holding her lightly, but he was afraid that Xiao Yan would struggle and fall, so he also used some cleverness. Xiao Yan has a mood of enjoyment, and the mood value increases by 100. The time it took to fly up was very short, but Xiao Yan actually had a mood of enjoyment, and Gu Fei couldn't help but glance at her quietly. The girl's face was flushed, the corners of her mouth were raised, and her whole body was very relaxed. When Gu Fei put her on the ground, she looked at the hand reluctantly before retracting her gaze. After this incident, Xiao Yan had a deep affection for Gu Fei. She herself did not realize it, but the fact was that this affection had already faintly exceeded the boundaries of friends. Even, some feelings between men and women began to sprout. When the two came up to the cliff, only Muli's cold body was lying there. Muli seemed to die with his eyes open, but he could only be left in this dense forest in the future, with no chance to breathe, and he might even be eaten by wild beasts soon. Those members of the wolf-head mercenary group whose cultivation was destroyed by Gu Fei had run away as soon as Gu Fei and Xiao Yan went down the cliff. They did not dare to stay here at all, and even did not dare to return to the team. The young leader Muli died, and they did not dare to collect his body, so they could only leave him there alone. Because they did not protect the young leader well, if he returned to the mercenary group, he would also die, and the leader's torture methods were even more terrifying. Therefore, the only thing they could do was to escape from the monster mountain range at all costs and become an ordinary person from now on. Gu Fei didn't care about these things, and he didn't bother to care. He returned to the herb-picking team with Xiao Yan as if nothing had happened, with an unusually calm expression. It was the first time that Xiao Yan did such a thing, and although her acting was a little stiff, she fooled the mercenaries. Although some people found that many members of the wolf-head mercenary group were missing, they didn't think about them. On the Lois Avenue 100 miles away from Kingshan Town, a young man in black was struggling forward. His face was still a little immature, but his eyes were very firm. Looking closely, I saw that the young man in black was carrying an extremely large black giant sword on his back. However, rather than saying that this is a giant sword, it is better to say that it is a thick iron giant ruler without a sharp edge or blade. The black giant sword also had no tip. At the end of the giant sword, it was as if it was cut in half by something, revealing a smooth mirror-like cross-section. On the surface of the pitch-black giant sword, there were also some vague strange lines, which spread all the way to the hilt and almost permeated all parts of the sword. The strange lines, combined with the simple black color, looked quite mysterious. The length of the strange giant sword almost exceeded the height of the boy. It seemed that the giant sword would crush the boy in the next second. This strange combination made some people who occasionally passed by on the road couldn't help but cast curious eyes on him. This person was Yan. Teacher, you said before that you wanted me to cross the Warcraft mountain range. I don't know what your intention is. Could it be that you want me to stand in danger and burst out the true potential of my body? Yan stopped and spoke as if he was talking to himself, but the answer he expected did not appear. It seems that the teacher hasn't woken up yet. I can only rely on myself for all this. After a long time, Yan sighed and continued to move forward. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22 Xun'er returns to Yuan City again. Yuan City, Gu family. At this time, it has been quite a while since Xiao Yan went out for training. Before he left, with the help of Yao Lao, he left a lot of elixirs for the Zhao family, occupying the largest market. As for the Zhao family, it was like a long drought finally ending in rain. The past of being trampled underfoot by others made them madly eager to become stronger. With the large amount of elixirs provided by Xiao Yan, they undoubtedly became the largest family in Yuan City. Today, everyone suddenly discovered that Xun'er, who left the family a year ago, is back. The news spread quickly as Xun'er returned to the Zhao family again. Xun'er hurried to the Zhao family, Uncle Xiao. When she saw Xiao Yan, she still saluted Xiao Yan, Yan's father, very politely as she did before. When Xiao Yan smiled and signaled Xun'er that there was no need to be polite, Xun'er immediately raised her head and asked anxiously, "Uncle Xiao, where is brother Yan?" Xiao Yan was silent for a moment and said, "Xun'er has been out for training for a while." She didn't have time to reminisce and exchange pleasantries. After quickly thanking Xiao Yan, she stood up with her skirt lifted up and immediately planned to look for Xiao Yan. Xun'er sneaked out of the ancient clan this time. Not only was Ling Ying, an H-starred Huang, following her, but there was also a Zong strong man from the ancient clan following in secret. After all, Xun'er was Gu Yuan's favorite. As the head of the clan, how could he not notice any disturbance in the ancient world? As soon as Xun'er planned to sneak away, he learned the news. His daughter had grown up, and he couldn't take care of her for the rest of her life. When a bird's wings gradually became full, he had to give her a place to fly. Gu Yuan sighed secretly and chose to let go, but how could he not send someone to pay attention to Xun'er's safety? So, Ling Ying and another Zong strong man were sent to follow Xun'er. Moreover, if Xun'er encountered a life-or-death crisis, facing a dangerous situation, she only needed 1 second to struggle, and she would be able to crush the space jade slip she carried with her and summon Gu Yuan, who was far away in the ancient world. For this daughter, Gu Yuan spent a lot of effort, and only hoped that she could grow up safely in the end. Gu Yuan silently watched Xun'er's back as she left, and sighed. On this side, after some investigation, Xun'er soon learned about Xiao Yan's whereabouts. After thinking for a moment, she decided to go to the direction of the Warcraft Mountains with Ling Ying to find Xiao Yan. Warcraft Mountains. At this moment, Gu Fei and Xian's group had already collected a lot of medicinal herbs. Although Gu's storage ring still had a lot of space, there were no medicinal herbs he needed here. "Brother Goof, Xiao looked at Goof, and before she finished speaking, Goof nodded, so she told the mercenaries to prepare to go down the mountain. However, her beautiful eyes were full of worries, and her brows were furrowed. Xiao is worried, and her emotion value increases by 100. With the help of the system, Goof certainly noticed that Xiao was not in a good state, but he did not say anything. Xiao was quite absent-minded. She was walking and did not even notice when Goof stopped in front of her. She bumped into his strong back and then came to her senses. There was still no relaxation between her brows, and she was a little depressed. Goof stared at her for a moment and shook his head. The reason why Xiao was so worried was that she had read the 7-colored poison scripture that she got in the cave under the cliff during the gaps of collecting herbs. When she saw the 4 words evil poison body at the beginning of one of the pages, her heart sank slightly, and an inexplicable feeling told her that if she finished reading it, she would regret it. But Xiao pursed her lips and continued to read. After reading the entire 7-colored poison scripture, she knew that she had the constitution of the evil poison body. Xiao could feel that her poisonous body had not been unsealed yet, so she tried her best to dissuade herself from thinking about it. Right now, the more important thing was the matter of the Wolf-Head mercenary group. Goof killed Mu Li, the young leader of the Wolf-Head mercenary group. This time, although he did not leave any witnesses, the mercenaries who were still alive did not have the courage to go back and tell about it. However, the people of the Wolf-Head mercenary group would probably think of her. After all, among this group of people, Goof was here for the first time, and logically, there should be no conflicts between him and Mu Li. The vast majority of the remaining mercenaries were not as strong as Mu Li and could not kill him, and the few who were stronger than Mu Li could not afford to provoke the Wolf-Head mercenary group. Therefore, as long as they thought about it carefully, they might suspect Xiao. If Xiao continued to return to King Shan Town, I am afraid that the people of the Wolf-Head mercenary group would not let her go. Although Goof was strong, he should not stay in a small place like King Shan Town. Xiao's pair of clear purple eyes were full of worry. Xiao is worried, and her emotion value increases by 100. Goof sighed. He could see Xiao's worry. He wanted to wait for Xiao to come to her senses, but it was impossible, because this girl's mind was always full of random thoughts. Goof stepped forward and whispered, "Xiao, are you worried that after returning to King Shan Town,
You will be retaliated by the wolf-head mercenary group." His face was gentle, and his eyes were fixed on Xiao Yixian. She hesitated for a moment. "Well, young master, you may not know that the wolf-head mercenary group is the most powerful mercenary group in the entire King Shan town. Their young leader is dead, and the mercenary group will not let it go. Moreover, Mu Li is the son of the leader." Xiao Yixian nodded and admitted it generously. Xiao Yixian was too worried. The wolf-head mercenary group was ruthless, and anyone who offended them would not have a good ending. At this moment, their young leader died inexplicably, and the revenge would be even more terrifying. Gu Fei smiled and said calmly, "Don't worry, I will solve all the problems. Next, I will leave first, but I will stay in King Shan town for a few days. If anyone tries to do anything bad to you, I will deal with them all." Gu Fei paused. "Just be a good Xiao Yixian, and leave everything else to me." Xiao Yixian is moved, and the emotion value increases by 100. Xiao Yixian looked at Gu Fei blankly. The confidence in his voice made Xiao Yixian's heart unconsciously surge with a warm current, and she felt full of security. Gu Fei looked down at the girl with purple hair and purple eyes. Her eyes were shallow and a faint mist floated up, as if she was about to cry. In King Shan town, everyone respected Xiao Yixian, but no one had ever told her, "Just be a good Xiao Yixian, and leave everything else to me." Xiao Yixian's throat was a little choked, and the long-lost heartbeat accelerated again. The little medical fairy develops admiration for him, and her emotion value increases by 100. She didn't say anything else, but her expression became much calmer, and she followed Gu Fei down the mountain. Chapter 23. Come on, I'll take you to kill someone. After returning to King Shan town, Gu Fei immediately hid himself and did not show up in front of people. He looked at Xiao Yixian deeply, told her not to worry, and then he stopped talking. Xiao Yixian feels lost. Emotional value increases by 100. Although she had made a plan in advance, Xiao Yixian was still heartbroken when she saw Gu Fei suddenly disappear. She hid the fluctuations on her face and said calmly, as Gu Fei had said before, when Boss Yao asked about it. She announced to the public that the powerful alchemist had left. It was said that after Gu Fei got the satisfactory medicinal materials, he separated from the herb collecting team when he went down the mountain. That lord actually left. Boss Yao listened and responded calmly, regretting that he did not curry favor with the Lord Alchemist. King Shan Town, the headquarters of the wolf-head mercenary group. Mu Shi was furious when he learned that his son Mu Li had died tragically and no one had collected his body for him, leaving him alone in the monster mountain range. His eyes were bloodshot, and the cup in his hand was crushed in an instant. As the glass fragments fluttered down, Mu Shi looked gloomy and gnashed his teeth. He was not stupid, and after thinking about it, the only suspect was Xiao Yixian. He knew that Mu Li's death was related to the little doctor in Wanyao's High, so he couldn't help but immediately send someone to kill Xiao Yixian to vent his anger. But at first he didn't know that the powerful alchemist who protected Xiao Yixian had left, and was waiting for him to save his face. The subordinates sent a message that Xiao Yixian said that Gu Fei had left first. Mu Shi smiled gloomily, his expression full of murderous intent. Go, send someone to notify Wanyao's High Boss Yao to hand over Xiao Yixian. Otherwise, when I come to your door in person, you will not be treated like this. The subordinates rarely saw Mu Shi so gloomy, and whispered tremblingly, and then hurried to Wanyao's High. At the same time, Wanyao's High Boss Yao also exposed his true face after confirming that Gu Fei had left again and again. He was very smooth and shrewd in dealing with people, so he could naturally see that Gu Fei had been protecting Xiao Yixian intentionally or unintentionally before. Now that Gu Fei had really left, wouldn't Xiao Yixian let him do whatever he wanted? Boss Yao had always known a little about the treasure under the cliff, but he had never revealed it. That was why he had always been greedy and wanted to get a piece of the pie. Boss Yao knew that Xiao Yixian and Gu Fei must have retrieved the treasure on this trip. Now that Gu Fei had left, he sent someone to put Xiao Yixian under house arrest and kept asking about the whereabouts of the treasure. It was just a matter of searching her. Moreover, after receiving Mu Shi's message, Boss Yao agreed to Mu Shi's request without hesitation. He raised the corners of his mouth and showed a sinister smile.
Boss Yao was planning to hand Zhao Yixian over to Mushi after finding out the treasure to vent his anger. Zhao Yixian was suddenly put under house arrest, and the clever girl soon discovered that this was Boss Yao's conspiracy. Of course she couldn't believe it, because Boss Yao always looked kind and peaceful, and he never said anything harsh. She also overheard Mushi's name during their conversation. I'm afraid Mushi asked Boss Yao for her. This series of events happened quickly, making Zhao Yixian very worried. However, she remembered what Gu Fei told her in the Warcraft Mountains before, and gradually calmed down. That night, Boss Yao's men questioned her again without any results, and left angrily. Zhao Yixian leaned against the wall tiredly, her eyes empty. It seems that after I left, many people really want to attack you. Zhao Yixian, are you okay now? Zhao Yixian has a surprise emotion, and the emotion value increases by 100. Zhao Yixian heard the familiar warm voice and opened her eyes suddenly, full of surprise. It turned out that Gu Fei appeared again and appeared directly in Zhao Yixian's room. He walked over step by step, picked up a chair, and sat down in front of Zhao Yixian. Brother Gu Fei, you are finally here. Zhao Yixian is moved, and her emotion value increases by 100. Zhao Yixian has been interrogated and forced for a day. Although she did not suffer any injuries, she is very tired. At this time, she finally saw Gu Fei, and her eyes were red and full of emotion. Let's go. I will take you to kill people. Gu Fei smiled slightly, and his expression when he said this was no different from usual, but his words made Zhao Yixian stunned. Zhao Yixian is moved, and her emotion value increases by 100. Zhao Yixian couldn't tell what she felt in her heart at that moment. She felt sour and numb, but she didn't hate it. Next, Gu Fei took Zhao Yixian and walked out of the room in a swagger. Zhao Yixian's heartbeats quickened for a moment, and she saw that the vicious guards who were sitting at the door of the room were all lying on the table at this time, as if they were dreaming a dream that they couldn't wake up from. They first went to Boss Yao's residence. Boss Yao had already gone to bed. Hearing the sound of the voices, he sat up suddenly and shouted, "Who?" "It's me." Gu Fei approached him, followed by a little doctor fairy. Two people who shouldn't be here showed up together. Boss Yao was stunned for a moment, and then cold sweat broke out on his palms. Boss Yao feels guilty, and his emotion value increases by 10. You brought the little doctor fairy to visit me in the middle of the night. Is there something wrong? He pretended to be stupid and asked, but his body kept retreating until he was fixed in place by Gu Fei's cold eyes. Gu Fei raised his palm lightly, and a terrifying airflow brewed in his palm. Boss Yao feels extremely fearful, and his emotion value increases by 15. Boss Yao immediately knelt down and begged for mercy with tears. "Sir, spare my life. I locked up the little doctor fairy to protect her. Mushi wanted to kill her to vent his anger. I did this for her own good." Gu Fei stopped talking nonsense. He had watched everything that happened in secret during this time, and knew that Boss Yao's mouth was full of lies. The next moment, a sharp palm was swung out, and the terrifying airflow accurately passed through Boss Yao's chest, making him, like Mu Li before, die before he could react. Zhao Yixian pursed her lips and said nothing, and Gu Fei took her to the Wolfhead mercenary group's base and found Mushi. During this period, Gu Fei had seen all the viciousness of Mushi and Boss Yao, so he acted without mercy and without hesitation. Mushi has fear, and the emotion value increases by 10. He did not give Mushi a chance to quibble, but a light palm made Mushi's eyes with fear completely solidify. Zhao Yixian was behind Gu Fei, quietly watching him kill Boss Yao and Mushi in a row. Zhao Yixian has gratitude, and the emotion value increases by 100. Although Gu Fei killed people without blinking an eye, Zhao Yixian was not afraid, because she understood that these people deserved to die, and Gu Fei was standing up for her. She was grateful to Gu Fei from the bottom of her heart. If it weren't for Gu Fei, her current situation would probably be very difficult. Chapter 24, Too Much Poison. Zhao Yixian looked back at Mushi's ugly face, and there was no ripple in her heart. She followed Gu Fei and returned to her room quietly. In the night, Wan Yao's eye was dead silent, and no one had discovered the death of Boss Yao. Zhao Yixian lay on her fragrant bed, revealing a faint smile, and secretly looked at the boy sitting quietly beside the bed. This face is very reassuring, and the occasional smile seems very easygoing. It's not the same person as Goof, who just killed Boss Yao and Mushi with a blank expression. But Xiao Yan felt warm in her heart. Someone was protecting her. This time, Goof killed so many people in King Shantown to help Xiao Yan. Moreover, they are not unknown people. Among them, one is Boss Yao, the owner of Wan Yao Zai, who usually has contacts with many people. Another one is Mushi, the leader of the Wolfhead mercenary group, the strongest mercenary group in King Shantown. Xiao Yan was a kind-hearted girl, and she knew that she would not be able to live the peaceful life she longed for in King Shantown. If she insisted on staying in King Shantown, she would have a hard time without Goof's protection. So when Goof turned to look at her, he asked in a leisurely tone, "Xiao Yan, what are you going to do next?" Xiao Yan thought about it, smiled and said, "As for me, I want to live in the small valley I found before for a while." Goof did not ask more questions. Since Xiao Yan had made up her mind, he did not need to worry about her. Then, Xiao Yan jumped out of bed, stood by the window, and blew a whistle. Goof keenly heard the sound of wings flapping violently in the distance. The sound came from far away, and finally slowed down and fell outside the window. A crisp knocking sound came, and Xiao Yan pushed open the window. A blue eagle landed on the flat ground outside the window, looking at them with its smart eyes. Xiao Yan flipped out of the window neatly and walked in front of the huge blue eagle. The blue eagle lowered its head to look at her, and leaned against Xiao Yan very docilely and intimately. Xiao Yan turned her head and stroked its smooth and soft fur, causing a crisp cry. "This is my pet magic beast Blue Eagle, a first-level flying magic beast," Xiao Yan explained after noticing Goof's size. Blue eagles are common in the Magic Beast mountain range, but it took Xiao Yan a lot of effort to tame a blue eagle. Xiao Yan stood there hesitating for a moment, turned her head to look at Goof, and asked hesitantly, "Brother Goof, can you accompany me there?" Xiao Yan asked. She was not afraid of danger, but her heart was filled with inexplicable reluctance, which made her make the request in a hurry. Xiao Yan has an expectation emotion, and the emotion value increases by 100. Goof pretended to think for a long time, and under the expectant eyes of Xiao Yan, he slowly responded and nodded gently. Xiao Yan is happy, and her emotion value increases by 100. Xiao Yan smiled faintly and climbed onto the broad back of the blue eagle. After that, Goof stopped flying by himself, even though he had the ability to fly. Next, Goof followed Xiao Yan and climbed onto the back of the blue eagle. After the blue eagle confirmed that they were all seated firmly, it flapped its wings and slowly flew up into the sky. The experience of being in the sky was quite interesting. Xiao Yan was just a girl no matter how calm she was. She was very excited and leaned over to look at the distant ground. "Brother Goof, that's my favorite store." I know, be careful." Although the back of the blue eagle was white, Goof was afraid that Xiao Yan would move too much and accidentally fall off, so he sat very close to her. When Xiao Yan turned her head, her lips brushed Goof's cheek. She shuddered all over, and then she realized what she had just done, and her face instantly turned red. This action also made Goof feel a strange, indescribable feeling in an instant, and both of them were silent. Xiao Yan feels shy, and her emotion value increases by 100. After that, Xiao Yan became much more obedient. Not long after, the blue eagle flew over the edge of the monster mountain range and came to a basin. This basin was where the Wan Yao's high herb picking team hired a group of mercenaries to pick herbs last time. However, the place where the blue eagle went was the deepest part of the basin. That place is still covered by fog all year round. It was far away, and Goof could only vaguely see a little outline. In the depths of the basin, the blue eagle slowly landed, and the small valley was filled with rich energy. Goof was a little surprised. Although the richness of this energy was not as strong as that of the ancient world, it was much stronger than outside. Xiao Yan is feeling proud, and her mood value increases by 100. "How is it, Brother Goof? Is this place good?" The small valley here is completely isolated from the outside world, and the sky is covered by thick fog, which is very hidden. If I hadn't accidentally broken in, I would probably not have discovered this strange place. Looking at Goof's somewhat surprised expression, Xiao Yan smiled slightly proudly. "It's really good," Gu Fei nodded. Next, Xiao Yan took Gu Fei to a thatched hut. This was where she stayed temporarily when she came here before. Gu Fei didn't mind and happily stayed. Coming to this refreshing and energetic place, Gu Fei's mind was also relaxed, and he and Xiao Yan enjoyed the unique quiet time for a while. There was no one in this small valley, only the creatures of nature. However, the next morning, Gu Fei found that Xiao Yan had not come out for a long time. He couldn't help but feel a little worried. He knocked on the door of the thatched hut, and when no one responded, he pushed it open. The room was filled with smoke. Gu Fei squinted his eyes and saw a large amount of poisonous gas spreading out. Gu Fei couldn't help but sigh and shook his head helplessly. It seems that she has chosen this path. This poisonous gas is fatal to others, but it has no effect on Gu Fei. Gu Fei waved his sleeves and walked in directly. The smoke in the room gradually dissipated, and on the bed, Xiao Yan was closing her eyes tightly, looking quite painful, with her brows furrowed. Her originally rosy face was actually showing strange colorful colors at this moment. After Gu Fei simply checked Xiao Yan's condition, he realized that she would not be in any danger of life. It's just that her current cultivation is too low, and she took too much poison at one time, and this silly girl couldn't digest it. "It seems that I have to watch over you for a while." Gu Fei meditated beside her, quietly guarding Xiao Yan and waiting for her to wake up naturally. Although he could force Xiao Yan to wake her up, he was afraid that doing so would cause harm to her body. Although Xiao Yan is not in danger of life this time, Gu Fei has been keeping an eye on her condition, fearing that other accidents might happen. Chapter 25 Xun'er's Rage. First Order Request. King Shan Town. The boy carrying a black ruler walked curiously in the busy street market, looking around. He still had many scars on his body. Although they had been healed, there were still faint scars. An inconspicuous black ring was worn on the finger of his right hand. This boy was Xiao Yan. He finally came to this town closest to the Warcraft mountain range. Xiao Yan walked and stopped in the street market, bought some things he needed, and also inquired about some news intentionally or unintentionally. This time, Xiao Yan left home and planned to enter the Warcraft mountain range for training as soon as he arrived in King Shan Town. However, because the ancient demon sent people to attack Xiao Yan before, Yao Lao's soul fell asleep in order to save him, and Xiao Yan was seriously injured. Although his injuries were almost healed, Xiao Yan himself was not sure to go into the mountain alone. So, he planned to join the mercenary team and enter the Warcraft mountain range together, so as to add an extra layer of protection for his safety. In the process of inquiring about news with these people in the street market, he also heard about many major events that happened in King Shan Town recently. Xiao Yan had heard of the famous wolf-head mercenary group in King Shan Town early in the morning. When he heard the man's face flushed as he told about his admiration for the leader Mushi, Xiao Yan also felt a desire for power when he heard Mushi's identity as a two-starred master. But the well-informed shop owner pulled him over mysteriously and whispered, "The wolf-head mercenary group, the strongest mercenary group with masters, has been annihilated." Xiao Yan's pupils shrank sharply. He happened to hear this news and sighed that things are unpredictable, but the next words of the shop owner shocked him even more. It is said that they were wiped out by a mysterious alchemist boy who looked only 16 years old. After hearing this, Xiao Yan walked out of the shop, still a little dazed. "It's really terrifying. Such a powerful person. I'm afraid that Nelan Yanren, the so-called young master of the Yunlin sect, can't compare with him at all." Xiao Yan is now just an ordinary practitioner, so for such a thing, he just sighed and didn't have any other thoughts in his mind. The reason why he chose to come to the Warcraft mountain range this time was because Yao Lao consumed his soul power and fell into a deep sleep, and he wanted him to come here to train for a year. Xiao Yan's plan was to train while looking for elixirs that could restore Yao Lao's soul. Yao Lao's soul was probably seriously damaged this time. Xiao Yan called him countless times in his heart along the way, but did not receive any response. Although he was worried, he had no choice but to take it one step at a time. At noon the next day, Xiao Yan finally selected a mercenary team and went into the mountains together. 2 days after Xiao Yan entered the mountains, King Shan Town also welcomed 2 other distinguished guests. The beautiful girl with long hair was walking on the street, stopping from time to time, looking at a product with shining eyes, and pulling the sleeve of the elder next to him to ask him to pay. Ling Ying naturally sighed and bought it for the lady helplessly. Many shop owners and mercenaries stared at these two very rich strangers intentionally or unintentionally, and their eyes were wandering around them. In fact, she was trying to catch the big fish she wanted by such a high-profile behavior. If Brother Yan was here, he should have known about her arrival and come to find her. Why has he been missing for so long? Seeing that this method did not work, Xun'er had to ask in person whether a young man carrying a black giant ruler had come to King Shan town in the past few days. Xun'er inquired for a long time, until the sun set, dusk was thick, and night had already arrived. She finally got some clues. The news was heard, but Brother Yan had already left. Xun'er returned to her residence, holding her chin and sighing. It seems that we are too late. Brother Yan has already entered the Warcraft mountain range. Ling Ying nodded, without saying a word, because he knew that Xun'er would have her own ideas. As expected, Xun'er looked at the distant mountains outside the window and thought for a moment, then clapped her hands and said to Ling Ying excitedly, "Why don't I go directly into the monster mountain range to find Brother Yan?" Although the outer perimeter of the monster mountain range did not pose a threat to Xun'er, no one had yet explored what kind of monsters were hidden in the inner edge. In order to ensure Xun'er's safety, Ling Ying did not want to persuade her anymore, and only planned to follow silently. Next, Xun'er also entered the monster mountain range, following Yan's footsteps. Fortunately, she had a treasure to find traces in her hand, but it was still very difficult to find a person in the huge monster mountain range. On the other side, although Yan had chosen a team to go into the mountains together, he quietly left the mercenary team soon after entering the mountains and chose to train alone. After all, these mercenaries saw that Yan was young, and they would protect him when he encountered monsters, and Yan could not hone himself well, so he gritted his teeth and chose to take the risk and explore the monster mountain range alone. Because Yan separated from the team, the traces he left behind were more hidden and difficult to find. Therefore, although Xun'er had Ling Ying's help, she did not find Yan in a short time. Xun'er was very patient and followed Ling Ying all the way to the Warcraft mountain range. Suddenly, a voice interrupted her steps. "Miss, I seem to smell something familiar here. Something is not right." Suddenly, Ling Ying spoke with a little surprise. His expression was quite unexpected. Xun'er stopped and looked back at him with a serious face. She knew Ling Ying's strength. If Ling Ying said there was a problem, then there was really a problem. As a bodyguard, Ling Ying was best at hiding and spying. However, the breath that he thought was very familiar, belonging to Gu Fei, was very faint, and Ling Ying could not judge it. He only knew that this breath was likely to belong to someone from the Gu clan. Xun'er took a few steps closer, and Ling Ying hesitated for a moment. "I can't tell who this breath belongs to, but there is no doubt that it comes from a person of the ancient clan, and his strength is unknown. Gu Fei is good at restraining his breath. The breath left along the way was several days ago. It is very impressive that Ling Ying can find it." Although Ling Ying is very powerful, he has no way to judge the owner of this breath. After hearing Ling Ying's words, Xun'er's face was stagnant. Ling Ying's discovery made Xun'er very panicked and a surge of anger. Because of the previous experience of the ancient monster, even if this judgment is unfounded, Xun'er is still worried that this time someone from the ancient clan wants to kill Brother Yan. Therefore, Xun'er is more eager to find Yan and confirm his current safety. Brother Yan's strength is not strong. Facing the killer sent by the ancient clan, would there be a mysterious person to rescue him this time? If not, what should Brother Yan do? Please order first. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.